Check 1, 2.
Madam Clerk, are we ready to start?
Through you, Chair. Yes, we are.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. We will be starting today's meeting. Good morning, everyone. As we begin today's meeting, we would like to acknowledge that we are gathering here today on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and before them, the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Huron, and Wendat. We also acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and other global Indigenous people that now call Brampton their home. We are honored to live, work, and enjoy this land. Good morning and welcome to our meeting of Brampton's Committee of Council. All members are present today with the following participating remotely or absent. Madam Clerk, can we check?
Through you, Chair. Deputy Mayor Singh has provided his regrets. Otherwise, everybody is here in person.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
No, I'm here. I'm online. Sorry.
I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor. I didn't see you online. He's with us after all. Sorry.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any updates?
Through you, Chair, since the agenda was published, the revised agenda includes the following updates. 6.6, delegations regarding active transportation master plan, bicycle lane implementation in the city. The related presentations and videos have been attached or links provided. 7.1, government relations matters. The presentation has been attached. 9.1.1, bicycle lane implementation in the city. Presentation attached. And regarding items 9.1.1 and 9.2.1, additional correspondence has been added, including correspondence from Peter Bolton, Brampton resident, is item 9.4.2. We also have 2 items to add to the agenda today. 6.8 will be a delegation from Scooty in regards to 9.2.1, the Transportation Master Plan. And the second item is 11.4.1, correspondence from Peel Regional Police Chief in support of Mayor Brown's notice of motion, item 11.3.1.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councillor Santos.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I just want to make sure that the Scooty delegation has been added. Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. And do any other members wish to add any business items to today's meeting? Thank you. We have a motion moved by Councillor Vicente, sorry.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'd like to add an announcement. We are here in Chambers today is the Rose Mercator, the new Executive Director of the Downtown Brampton BIA, and he would like to share with us some information.
Thank you, Councillor Vicente. Next, we have Councillor Palashi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'd like to add I put a placeholder for an in-camera discussion about the procedural bylaw. As of right now, just a placeholder because I haven't discussed this with the solicitor as of yet, but I'd like to make sure that we're correct in, or at least I'm correct in adding this item. I'll take a couple minutes when I get a chance to discuss it with the solicitor. Is that okay, Madam Clerk?
Through you, Chair. Could we add it as a discussion item to closed and then see what comes out of it for the council agenda?
Perfect.
Would that work?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other councillors have any questions, we have a motion moved by Councillor Santos and seconded by Councillor Palashi to approve the agenda. All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Now, do any members have a declaration of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for any matter to be considered on today's agenda? Seeing none, the clerk will so note for the meeting minutes. Committee, as a part of our consent motion process, I will read each agenda item that is subject to consent motion, and any member may verbally identify the item to be held for debate during the meeting. Any item not held for debate will be considered as a part of the consent motion and voted on for approval. I'll start reading the relevant agenda items, and members can identify any items to be held for debate. 7.1, it's a staff update, government relations matter, held by Councillor Santos. 8.2.1 is held for a delegation with 6.5, that which is a staff report regarding the 2023 State of Local Infrastructure Report. 8.2.2, staff report regarding the land tax apportionments pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001. In consent. 8.3.1, minutes Brampton Women's Advisory Committee, October 9th, 2024. In consent. 8.4.1, correspondence from Patrick McCone, Technical Manager, Regulatory Research and Records, Enbridge Gas, Inc., regarding application for new certificate of public convenience and necessity. In consent. 9.2.1 is held with the presentations regarding active transportation master plan, bicycle lane implementation in the city, and Bill 212, Reducing Gridlock and Saving Time Act 2024. And that's held. 9.2.1 staff report regarding parking related concerns, Forest Grove Circle, Ward 2. In consent. 9.2.3 staff report regarding engagement campaign snow survey results for winter maintenance contract, held by Councillor Tour. 9.3.1, Brampton School Traffic Safety Council, October 10th, 2024, in consent. 9.4.1, correspondence from Tamara Chipperfield, Corporate Secretary, Credit Valley Conservation regarding 2025 Credit Valley Conservation Board of Directors meeting schedule, in consent. 9.4.2, correspondence from Peter Bolton, Brampton resident, dated November 12, 2024, regarding Brampton bike lanes and infrastructure, see 9.1, 9.1.1, and 9.2.1.
I think that's held. Which one is that?
9.4.2,
Oh, okay, that's fine.
in consent. 10.2.1, staff report regarding request to begin procurement watering services for hanging baskets, planters, and planting beds at various citywide locations for a 3-year period, in consent. 11.2.1, staff report regarding information report, enforcement, operational review, implementation plan, in consent. 12.2.2, staff report regarding addressing unqualified contractors and repeat building inspections for additional residential units, ARUs, in consent. 12.2.3, staff report regarding review of public nuisance bylaw 136-2018 in respect to car rallies, in consent. 13.1, referred matters list, in consent. 15.1, closed session. And we'll be holding 15.1 in closed session, Brampton Transit update. And there's 15.2, which will be discussion item by Councillor Palesh. The clerk will summarize those items to be concluded on the consent motion for approval.
Through you, Chair, the following items are included on the consent motion. Item 8.2.2, staff report regarding land tax apportionments. 8.3.1, minutes of the Brampton Women's Advisory Committee. 8.4.1, correspondence from Patrick McMahon of Enbridge Gas. 9.2.1, oh, sorry, that's held. 9.2.2, staff report, parking-related concerns. 9.3.1, minutes of the Brampton School Traffic Safety Council. 9.4.1, correspondence from Tamara Chipperfield, Credit Valley Conservation. 9.4.2, correspondence from Peter Bolton, Brampton resident. 10.2.1, staff report, begin procurement for watering services for hanging baskets and planters. 11.2.1, staff report, enforcement operational review, implementation plan. 12.2.2, staff report addressing unqualified contractors and repeat building inspections. 12.2.3, staff report review of public nuisance bylaw with respect to car rallies. 13.1, referred matters list. And that's it.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I have a motion moved by Councillor Tour and seconded by Councillor Keenan to approve the consent motion. All in favor? Thank you. The motion carries. We have 2 announcements today. Announcements are permitted 2 minutes. The first announcement was sponsored by Councillor Regional Tour. Councillor Tour, you have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I just want to make an announcement regarding this past weekend. Economic Development Division hosted its first ever citywide hackathon, BramHacks 2024. This is the city's first hackathon ever. This event was a resounding success with over 200 post-secondary students working in teams to build solutions for a sustainable, innovative transportation system. The event created a space for real, impactful solutions that aligned with Brampton's active transportation master plan. It showcased how bright our future is with our talented youth ready to tackle challenges through innovation and collaboration. A thank you to our title sponsor, Amazon. Their support made it possible to offer cash prizes for top 3 winners. First place got $5,000, second place had $2,500, and third place at $1,000. We're planning to bring the winning team, Nocturnal Nappers, to delegate to council at a later date. This type of event takes a lot of planning and support, and I would like to acknowledge the collaboration of staff from various city departments: economic development, transit, IT, equity office, recreation volunteers, sustainability, planning, and facilities. A number of Brampton Innovation District entrepreneurs and partners also supported as mentors, including Transify, Scooty, Loop Parking, Rogers Catalyst, Brampton Venture Zone, Beehive, and the Brampton Entrepreneur Center. A thank you to all of them. Thank you to our sponsors, Toronto Pearson, Quantum Arc Solutions, and Domino's for their support, as well as our partners, Algoma University, Sheridan College, Toronto Metropolitan University, Make Stuff Move, and Brampton Library. Also want to thank Councillor Santos for being a co-judge with me on the final panel. But once again, thank you to all the economic development staff that was a big part of this and making this happen, working together with all city divisions. I hope that we can grow this event and make it an annual thing. Got a lot of positive feedback, so I'm excited to see the winning team come to council and delegate and present their solution. I think these are some of the most forward-thinking, future-proof solutions that we can have and we need to build on as a city. So thank you to everybody that was involved.
Thank you, Councillor Tour. Our next announcement was from Councillor Vicente regarding the BIA. Councillor Vicente, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and it's my pleasure to invite to the podium LaRose Mercator, our new Executive Director for the Downtown Brampton BIA. Myself and Councillor Keenan added this announcement today so that, first of all, we can congratulate LaRose for his appointment to this very important position, but also so that we can learn more about the BIA's holiday shopping spree campaign, which will be taking place soon.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Once again, my name is LaRose Mercator, and I'm so proud to be the new Executive Director of the Downtown Brampton Business Improvement Area, or BIA. Just quickly introducing myself, having worked previously at Waterfront Toronto on their Sidewalk Labs project, in Little Jamaica supporting businesses there during the Eglinton LRT, and most recently at Yonge and St. Clair in Midtown Toronto. Tomorrow will be the BIA's annual general meeting, and I'm so pleased to announce and share our 2025 action plan to strengthen downtown Brampton. We are going to be launching a new strategic plan, a brand refresh, finalizing a boundary expansion, and also working with city staff to accelerate our downtown projects. But I wanted to quickly announce, in conjunction with the Winter Lights Festival happening on Friday, we have a new holiday shopping campaign where we're inviting all residents and visitors across from the city of Brampton to come and support local businesses downtown, and the opportunity to win $10,000 cash if they support a local business in downtown and upload a receipt of at least $20 to be entered into this prize. There's also an early bird prize if they spend and support businesses before December the 8th. There's a $2,500 cash prize. And then finally, there's a weekly draw of $250 downtown gift cards for everybody who do participate. So we're going to be launching this during the Winter Lights Festival on Friday, but we wanted to encourage all members of council to please support this campaign, share on your social media, and really help support the businesses in the downtown area. We were supposed to have a large check with the $10,000 here, but it has not. Oh, it's right here, basically, right? Yeah. So we would love if we could take a photo with you to help promote this campaign to all the residents of downtown Brampton and beyond for the holiday season. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and I will request for council members to come up to take a picture. Thank you so much. Our first delegation item is item from Todd Kyle, CEO, Brampton Library, Rada Taylor, Library Board Chair, and Anand Desai, Mountain Brown Planning Consultants regarding Brampton Library Facilities Master Plan Update. Welcome. You have up to 5 minutes.
Great, thank you very much. Good morning, Mayor and Councilors. I'm Radha Taylor, Chair of the Brampton Public Library Board. This is Todd Kyle, our CEO, and behind me, hello, this is a lovely gentleman. I know that many of you are familiar with him. This is Anand Desai. He is with Monteith and Brown. He's been working with us with the Facilities Master Plan. We're here to present the recent addendum to our current Facilities Master Plan. You guys are hilarious. If we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Oh. It's all good. All right, I'm going to keep talking. That's all good. The library released its FMP, the Facilities Master Plan, in January 2022 in order to redress the shortfall of library services compared to the Brampton's growing population. In municipalities like Toronto, the strategy is to increase operating hours, but in Brampton, the strategy is to increase the number of branches that we have to serve the population. Next slide, please. We recently updated the Facilities Master Plan to reflect the new realities, particularly the relocation of the Chinguacousy branch, and to align with the city's vision and development plans, including the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Next slide, please. And as you know, we had to relocate our Chinguacousy branch on an interim basis to the ski chalet, which is a facility by the Parks and Recreation. Our consultant reviewed the possibilities for a permanent replacement site. The long-term recommendation is to build a new library, but given the time constraints that we have, the medium-term recommendation is to lease space available in the immediate area. We are currently negotiating the lease for occupancy towards the end of 2025, and the costs form part of our budget request. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Radha. So the FMP recommends a number of new branches to meet a minimum space per capita target. These include the library that will be connected to the Centre for Innovation, a large branch in the southwest part of the city near the Embleton Community Centre, and new branches eventually to complement the Heritage Heights development and the projected urban community hubs. Next slide, please. This map shows the current distribution of our branches, including in the southeast end, the Clairville branch, which is slated to open in the new year. Next slide, please. This map shows the proposed distribution of branches. New locations are shown in blue in the case of large district branches and in green for smaller neighborhood branches. Next slide, please. So our next steps are very important. We're working hard with council and with city staff to implement these recommendations. The most important priority, as Radha mentioned, is leasing space for a medium-term Chinguacousy branch to replace the ski chalet. We're also working on the CFI, the Centre for Innovation, and a branch near Embleton. As part of the service delivery review that was initiated by council, we are also working at the same time on aligning our support services with the city, and that includes ensuring that our service and facility planning is done in cooperation with the building design and construction areas and the planning, building, and growth management departments. Next slide, please. So thank you very much, and we are open for questions if you have any.
Councillor Paleshi, you have the floor.
For sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for your delegation. I'm glad you mentioned Embleton. And I don't think we've never had an in-camera discussion about Embleton. I don't think it's a big secret, but we're trying to get a library at Embleton, which is fantastic. A couple questions. How does our library do in the plaza? We have a little library in the plaza, and how many square feet is that? How many people are going in and out of there? And it's also, there's another use in there. Please remind me what that other use is, like a daycare or?
Through you, Madam Chair, you're talking about the Southwest Branch.
Yes.
Which is on Mississauga Road in the Lionhead Marketplace Plaza.
Yes.
It's leased space. It's roughly 5,000 square feet. About 2,000 square feet of that is sublet on a part-time basis too early on for their
Yes,
programming.
that's right. Okay. So 3,000 square feet for library.
Right. The additional space is available when they're not in there for our programming. So sometimes it's part of the library use. So the use is quite good, given its size and its short hours. It isn't adequate to serve that growing community. The intention, if a branch, a larger district branch is developed in that area, probably near the Embleton Community Center, is to replace the southwest branch.
Sure.
As its lease comes up for renewal, we keep making that calculus each time. We currently have a couple more years. So.
For sure. I guess, but my question is, with such a small location, 3,000 square feet, you would think that there would be a lineup going, out the door or down the street for such a small location. How many people is it actually serving? Do you feel like that it's such a small location that it kind of turns people away potentially? It doesn't really have, look, it's in the middle of a retail plaza. It doesn't have our library feel, right?
No. I mean, I think it's exceptionally well designed for a lease space, but I don't have the specific numbers. My comment would be is that in most cases, our libraries form a sort of a third place for people, and they spend large portions of their days studying or meeting people or attending programs, and people are simply unable to do that. So people's visits tend to be much shorter.
Right.
The collection of books is not particularly that suited to browsing. People are often just picking up things that they put on hold. So it simply doesn't have the facility for people to want to spend lots of time there. Yeah.
I guess my follow-up question is around Mount Pleasant Library, and that library I think was it was fantastic at the time. It was working with the school board and having that co-location for them to be able to use our library. I think that's what I kind of foresee in Embleton as well. Unfortunately, the school board is not. They have no oomph to get that school built, but I think we want to force that regardless, and have a beautiful library facility at Embleton, and hopefully when they go to choose to build, and then that's a co-location as well. Are we still very much supportive of co-locations and with the schools?
I would say that our board is. I can have the board chair as well as our consultant comment on that. But yes, it's always been our desire, co-location and some shared usage of space for efficiency. Excellent. And so on serves the community better.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Palashi. Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you very much through you, Madam Chair, and very similar to Councillor Palashi's questions. I was actually sometime last week I passed by the South Fletcher's temporary location of Shoppers World, and it was packed. And I was astounded, and it really confirmed a lot of the discussions we've had over the last couple of years, where you saw seniors using it, you saw younger people use it, and it was really busy. And I guess just along that lines, how have you found the participation there? Have you found the activity? Like just from a bird's eye view, it seemed very busy, and it just really speaks to the fact when you put, for example, facilities, and that sort of aligns a little bit with what we've learned in Parks and Rec. Community hubs seem to really work, attracts people from the community. Have you found that experience as well with that location?
I can address that one too as well. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first day there were 300 people through the door, and there wasn't even any signage. Wow. Indicating where it was. So yeah, we've found that it's quite successful, again, around 5,000 square feet, so not necessarily adequate to the kind of usage people would like to put it to. I think the shopping mall also appreciates the foot traffic as well.
Yeah, that's great.
And also to add on to that, one of the things that we keep noticing is when there's small locations, or for instance, in this one in the relocation, a lot of people were using South Fletcher's for studying. They were using it as a third space for socializing, and it was a wide range of demographics, right? In a lot of cases, and we know the demographic in the neighborhood as well, you really need the space to have some quiet time, some social time. So it's very, very similar in the retrospect that when we were in the rec center, because right now it's a relocation, it's an easy way for people to explore what else is available to them as a community member. The same thing happens with the mall. People are walking by, even the ones that don't know about it, they do end up finding it afterwards. So just having that visibility really does help. But yeah, once again though, not having as much space to be able to support our community, especially as we're going into school year as well. You know, you have entrepreneurs in there, you have students in there, you have parents with young kids in there. They were using it for transient, they were using it as passing by. It's a little bit difficult just to be able to manage the space, but it's busy. It's really busy.
Yeah, it's good to hear. Thank you very much for your work.
And if I might, sorry, just one, not to duplicate what was just said, but, you know, it feels like deja vu in terms of the Parks and Rec plan as well, when we were having questions about community centers and use beyond organized sports, for example. The library's role, you know, does serve a wide range of uses, again, from a gathering perspective. And so you will see from a strategy perspective for the library system, really a focus where possible, co-location, integration as part of campuses, as part of hubs. So whether it's part of potentially a Shoppers World redevelopment, whether it's, again, you know, that spirit of finding efficiencies, because we know that the strategy from a capital perspective, you know, things cost a lot to build these days, and so things cost a lot to operate. But most importantly, people are looking for those one-stop shopping opportunities. You as council are looking at ways to, you know, maximize value, both intrinsically and fiscally to your constituents. And so you will notice, you know, if you do have a chance to review the strategy, wherever possible, the opportunity to work with schools, to work with recreation departments, to work with others, Center for Innovation.
Thank you, Councillor Medeiros, and I just really want to say thank you, Radha, thank you, Todd, and thank you, Anand, for being part of the library board. It's been an honor to be on that team, and especially seeing the library board is working with the city of Brampton. And when you talk about complete communities, we talk about the one shop. And I think when you talk to a lot of residents, that's what they're looking for when they drop off their children to maybe a program, and then they take their younger child to a library, and I think it really promotes it. So my one question is, when you talk to residents at the library, what are some positive things that they talk about, and what are some needs that they're looking for at the library?
Yeah, for sure. Needs a space. We all know this, guys. Needs a space. When it comes to, so that is actually the greatest need. It's the need for study space. It's the need for community space. It's the need for mixed areas so you can have a variety of programming. Because a lot of the discovery that happens in Brampton about whether it's new hobbies, education, et cetera, comes first through the library, right? So that's always so important. Things that they love, once again, it's the discovery. People are building communities there. People are finding it, the accessibility makes it a lot easier. There's safe spaces. And we also do have a lot of populations where there's very few safe spaces for them. It really works out. Parents being able to help bring education outside of the classroom, but you know, having the exposure to other community members happens in the library because our children's programming is thriving. Seniors with connectivity, thriving. So in those cases, there is a multitude of discovery that's happening at the library, communication and community building that essentially, I like to say it's one of the hearts of the city of Brampton. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Vicente and I definitely have the pleasure of being on the library board, and it's great working with you again. Thank you for your delegation. Any other questions from councillors? Seeing none. We have a motion moved by Councillor Vicente to receive the delegation. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries.
Thank you all.
Our next delegation is from Manisha Manocha and Vikas Sharma, Festival Director, to Maruthi Events regarding request to waive charges related to the public religious festival. Welcome. You have up to 5 minutes. Madam Clerk, is anyone online?
I'll move receipt.
Thank you. Okay, we can move receipt of this delegation, moved by Councillor Paleshi. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Our next delegation is from Susan Eagles, member of Village of Green Co-op nonprofit in Brampton resident, regarding a request for noise wall sound barrier on Steeles Avenue at McMurtry Avenue, Ward 3. Welcome, you have up to 5 minutes.
Good morning. Thank you for having us. We had got a message that the meeting had been canceled, but 2 of us did attend anyway, thank God. Yeah, we are a co-op located at the corner of McMurtry and Steeles Avenue. We have been there since it started in 1975, was an official co-op as of 1980. We are all aspects of RGI, rent geared to income people. It's a non-profit affordable housing area. Since these new buildings have gone up, we can hardly stand the noise. They start at 6 a.m. And as well, Steeles Avenue is nonstop 24/7. And we've all got several health issues. We aren't saying that it is from that road or anything, or if a noise barrier would help that, but a noise barrier would help us sleep. We have double pane windows that do not help. You have to have your windows shut. And my bedroom is right basically 50 feet from Steeles Avenue. I don't know who we go to. I came to City Hall. They told me to do a petition. I did carry out a petition. 164 names we got just from our co-op. And we have 189 members. 116 houses. And we have had 5 accidents in the last year that have gone through our wooden fence, which is not working, right from Steeles Avenue at the lights at Steeles and McMurtry. And I will also state that the people have not moved into these buildings. They're still being constructed. That's why I've brought it forth to City Hall. I don't know if we can do anything, or you can point me in the right direction. Please and thank you.
Thank you so much. We do have Councillor Keenan on the floor.
Thank you, and to you, Madam Chair. Thanks for coming in for your delegation and taking the time today.
Thank you.
We definitely know that that area is developing. That corridor is definitely seeing a lot of action, and with it, it's definitely coming quite a bit of noise on the roads, and I think it'll continue for the future. Steeles, to my knowledge, is a regional road, so definitely pointing in the right direction. It's myself and Councilor Deere, I think we'd probably have to defer this to the region to have their input and them do the studies. I don't know if our staff have anything to do with that. Maybe through you, Madam Chair, if we could have staff maybe comment.
Through the chair, through to you, Councillor Keenan. You're correct that this would have to be deferred to the region. The Region Appeal does have a noise wall program, and when it comes to intersections that intersect with local roads such as McMurtry, there has been practice in the past where we've partnered with the region to look at cost sharing the upgrade of those noise walls and whatnot. So I think staff would then take this delegation to work with the regional commissioner to look at those opportunities.
Then I would like to move that if possible, but Councillor Pelletier is also on the board.
Thank you, Councillor Keenan. Councillor Pelletier.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm just trying to help, and I'm going to look down at my council colleagues from previous terms. And Councillor Fortini might, because he dealt with this in his area, sound walls. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor, at one time, when we were at the region, and it was a regional road, it was dependent on how many lanes. It was an automatic sound barrier that the region was supposed to be putting forward. And I think you put the motion forward to put those sound barriers up. So if this is an area that hasn't been done, maybe it's just been, looked over. I see Councillor Fortini on the board. He will have better recollection because he's the one that actually put this forward for his area. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Pelletier. Councillor Fortini.
Yeah, thank you, and correct. And I think it's because it's 3 lanes and 3 lanes. We end up putting sound walls, like even on Bavard and all. So maybe it's a regional road. Maybe we could take it back to the region, and see how they could put the sound barrier walls there.
We
Because-
have approached the region. They told us to go to you guys because the builders of those buildings are actually city involved with the city, the buildings going up. And I said, well, I'm worried more about the road and noise traffic there.
And they're correct, but the road belongs to the region. So we did on Bavard the first term, and that's why they have the sound barrier walls, but it's not going to get done overnight, I know.
For sure.
I think with your counselors, both at the region, maybe they could bring it at the region, and we could see what we could do to get sound barrier walls there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it and appreciate your time.
Thank you, Councillor Pertini. Councillor Keenan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so we'll bring this to the region. I'll refer this back to our staff to work with regional staff. You know, for them to tell you that it should come back here is kind of ridiculous. It is a regional road. It has nothing to do with the construction. It's the cars. So we definitely will take care of this. So I'd like to move that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have a
Appreciate your
motion.
time.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you. We have a motion moved by Councillor Keenan to be referred to staff for discussion with the regional appeal. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Our next delegation is from Emmanuel Abdubola, Executive Director, ANE Global, regarding ANE Global and Black Empowerment Summit in Gala, October 19, 2024. Welcome. You have up to 5 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. It's a privilege. Thank you, sir. Only in Brampton. Good morning, everyone. It's a privilege to be here again. A few months ago, we were here to seek your cooperation as we were planning to execute an event. It was going to be the first one, Black Empowerment Summit and Gala Dinner. And I'm happy to report that you supported us more than any other city in Ontario. The only thing that would have been the icing on the cake would have been for Mayor Brown himself to be there, but he was in Africa. So your excuse for that, he was in Africa at the time. So that's why we decided to come back here to say thank you, and that's all today is about, keeping with the time. So I just asked the people from our team to come down. Omoni, and please come down. Natalie, Ben, Elizabeth, and yes, please come down. Okay, so what we want to do is very simple. We're here with certificates of recognition, which we present within the time, to people who have distinguished themselves in serving us or supporting us in the Black community. And the first person on that list is Prince Khan. Prince Khan is a consultant who used to be in the region of Halton, but has come back home to Brampton. Prince, where are you? Prince has a very tight schedule, that's why he's going first. But let's give him a round of applause as we appreciate him. And I'll ask Erica to please, I'm sorry, I thought I had it coordinated. So Erica, please make the presentation to him. Next is Garnet Manning. Garnet Manning recently coordinated and led amongst others, led the Black community engagement with the mayor. I would like to appreciate you. And to present it to him, my apologies, is Benson Amun. Benson Amun is a retired principal from the Peel region who left 8 years ago. Please hold it. Congratulations, sir. Thank you for all you're doing. Thank you. Next is Candace Keller. Candace has been very helpful in welcoming us in different engagements we've done. And again, we're very grateful to her for her support. And we thank you very much, Candace, for representing us. And to present, Candace is Natalie Williams. Natalie Williams is a consultant. Please. Congratulations, and thank you very much for what you're doing. Grateful. All right. Next is a wonderful man who's Nigerian by origin. He was recently made the community engagement specialist by Mayor Brown, and that's Maurice Imadu. Maurice Imadu, where are you? Please come down. Let's give him a round of applause. He's done a fantastic job of promoting Brampton beyond this community, so we're very grateful. Please come, very quickly. And presenting it to him is a lady who's a Omoni Oboli. Omoni Oboli is the, yes, Omoni Oboli is an actress whose video is making the rounds. It's called The Uprising. Let's give her a big round of applause. It's a fantastic movie that is currently airing in the Cineplex Plazas, theaters, and we're very grateful. Let's go. So she'll be presenting it to Maurice. Congratulations. Congratulations. Next, last but the least is Mayor, Councillor Rod Parr, not yet Mayor, so I don't get. Councillor Rod Parr has been very supportive in very many things we've done in the Black community. I want to thank you. Every time we call upon you, you show up. Please come. Let's give him a round of applause. And I'm not delegating this, I'm presenting it to him myself, just to show my appreciation. The first time we had a delegation on the 29th of May, you opened the door, or you sponsored it. Thank you so much. We're very grateful. Thank you. Thank you. And last and by no means the least, with a standing ovation, I'd like us to recognize Mayor Patrick Brown, who incidentally has done a lot more than many other mayors across the town. So please come forward, sir. We're very grateful. Mayor Brown has been to Nigeria 2 times. And I'll just ask that the council members support him on this very important occasion, just like was done a few minutes ago. Thank you very much, sir. Ideally, Gwyneth Chapman should have been, she would have done the honors, but
Thank you.
sorry. And there's no better person than Mr. Akin Oduton. So Mr. Akin Oduton is he's my brother. Yes. He's known Mayor Brown probably longer than many of us, and we're grateful for all that has been done. Thank you, sir. Council, again, can you please come and join us?
Thank you, Emmanuel, and just want to say thank you for all the recognition. I think it will probably be appropriate for announcement instead of a delegation, but that's okay. But I just want to say thank you so much for everything you've done and all the recognition that you give.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We want to present this to the library. We will have a library we can submit this to. This was a magazine that was released recently and has all the councillors of Nigeria. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. We have a motion moved by Councillor Palashi to receive the delegation. All in favor? Thank you. The motion carries. Our next delegation is from Andrew Mirabella, Associate Partner, Hemson Consulting Ltd, regarding 2023 State of Local Infrastructure Report. Welcome. You have up to 5 minutes.
All right. Good morning, members, council, and chair. My name again, Andrew Mirabella from Hemson Consulting. We're here today to present the 2023 State of Local Infrastructure Report as part of the city's ongoing asset management program. If we go to the next slide, just to kind of go over our program itself, it kind of started off in 2015, 2016 with the first corporate AMP. With that, the city has been on the track to meet all the regulatory requirements under the legislation. You've seen me a couple times before presenting the corporate asset management plan, the service area AMP, and regular state of the local infrastructure reports, which were well on track for all the regulatory requirements by July 1st of 2025. If we go to the next slide, just to provide some context into the overall program itself, a lot has been done since the 2016 initiation of the CAMO office. We've completed several updates to these SOLI reports, providing a foundational element to a lot of the updates that we've seen here in terms of the individual corporate asset management plan, the service area AMP, and there's currently a transportation and stormwater asset management plan underway to meet that July 2025 compliance requirement. And these reports are obviously really critical to the city's kind of management of infrastructure and informing your capital investment decisions. If we go to the next slide, just to provide a bit of context in terms of our maturity assessment, the city has made quite a bit of progress in terms of their overall maturity, with the intention to move to advanced state by the end of the 2025-2026 period. If we go to the next slide, just to look at the some of the messages here, the SOLI report is primarily focused on understanding the details of the asset inventory in terms of the replacement value and the condition. The total replacement value right now of the city's assets is estimated at about $10 billion, with those assets representing in good condition at the overall state. So quite a good story here for the city. That valuation has changed quite a bit over the last number of years. If we go to the next slide, we see that that $10 billion worth of infrastructure is largely can be attributed to the transportation network. Next largest element is going to be your stormwater and your facilities. Since started in 2016, the valuation was about $5.1 billion. It's up to about $10 billion now, some of which is attributable to inflation, some of which is just better data and kind of improving the program. If we go to the next slide, just looking at the change in the breakdown of the $1 billion increase from last year to this year, I'm sure council is quite aware that we're in quite of an extended inflationary environment, which is a lot of driving the change here that we're seeing. So our cost changes are increasing, and that's driving that bigger portion of the change since last year. We also have data improvements and net new assets that the city has acquired, which is kind of bringing in to that overall adjustment from last year's valuation to this year's valuation. If we go to the next slide, just to kind of overall capture the condition of the assets, as I indicated, they're overall in good condition, most of which is in that good to very good category. About 17% of the assets are in fair condition. We do obviously want to be cognizant of some of those assets that are in poor and very poor condition, because that's where the city is going to be investing their money on an annual basis. And we have kind of a distribution of that very poor asset category on the table to the right, which I won't get into. But generally speaking, all the assets in those poor, very poor categories are still to be considered safe and operational, most of which is kind of an age-based approach. But the city is addressing them through your annual capital budget exercise, which is the good news story of those assets categorized in that condition. If we go to the next slide, just to kind of further delineate those by category, this kind of just puts the breakdown of the asset condition by service area, and then qualifying some of the assets that are in very poor condition, some of which is just related to the assets being done on an age-based approach, which is kind of a desktop approach to the valuation. But again, a lot of those assets are still continue to be in service and safe to operate. Just to kind of conclude in terms of our next steps here on the next slide, the next kind of item on the timeline here is the proposed level of service for your transportation and your stormwater network in order to meet that regulatory milestone, which again, the city is working on those particular plans right now. The next State of Local Infrastructure report is part of the annual reporting requirement. SOLI 2024 will be on deck to come back to council in Q2 or Q3 of 2025. And then with kind of following that, we're kind of in a full motion of being compliant with the regulatory requirement and just part of the annual requirements to keep those updated, and then certainly keeping a finger on the pulse of any changes to the region appeals assets, which might get delineated down to the city based on that. So that's my super fast overview of that very detailed report, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for that delegation. Seeing no other members that have any questions, we'll have a motion to receive the delegation and the report moved by Councillor Singh, Deputy Mayor Singh. All in favor? Thank you. The motion carries. Next, we have a number of delegations, and it's regarding the Active Transportation Master Plan, the bicycle lane implementation in the city, and Bill 212, Reducing Gridlock, Saving You Time Act 2024. I'm going to welcome David Lang, President, Brampton Environmental Alliance, and you have up to 5 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of committee. 2 days after Remembrance Day, and I'm still thinking about my father-in-law, and 3 uncles who served in the Canadian Armed Forces during World War II. My dad and 1 uncle returned safely, as did my father-in-law, although not before he spent 7 months in a prisoner of war camp. Sadly, my other 2 uncles didn't survive. These and thousands of other brave men and women volunteered to put their lives on the line to uphold Canadian values of fairness, honesty, equality, and rule of law. And it's thinking about the willingness for individual sacrifice for the betterment of all that has me so frustrated in relation to this debate about cycling and specifically bike lanes. A transportation system that prioritizes pedestrians and cyclists over cars is a philosophy that is baked into provincial policy statements and all of the city's planning documents. Is that just rhetoric? Are we serious about making roads accessible and safe for all? Or are these just words to make us feel better about ourselves? When we make policy decisions in response to ill-informed populist opinion, rather than on facts and what is in the best interest of the community, it sets up a vicious cycle. Where active transportation investments are chronically underfunded, delayed, and deprioritized, travel by car remains the only safe, convenient option for the majority. Active transportation mode share remains in the low single digits. And vulnerable road users who often have no choice as to how they travel continue to experience unnecessary death or life-altering injury. After reading the Active Transportation Master Plan staff report, one can only conclude that the implementation of Brampton bike lanes has been a resounding success. Bike lanes reduce average road speed, reduce deaths, serious injuries for all. They reduce travel time and increase capacity through more efficient use of road space. They provide safe space for micromobility users, encouraging a mode shift away from cars. They contribute, therefore, to healthier lifestyles, reducing pressure on the healthcare system. They bring increased economic benefits through local shopping. They help lower carbon footprint from transportation. These are all the things that we want. Are we willing to give up these benefits because some people don't like bike lanes? Because they fear loss of parking directly in front of their homes? Or that they think commute times will be slower? Or that they just don't want to share the road? No jurisdiction has implemented bike lanes without complaint, but complaints die down while the benefits continue. How many complaints are there about bike lanes on Rutherford now? We need to change culture. We should be celebrating the success of existing bike lanes in improving traffic efficiency and making the roads safe for all. As appropriate, we should be building more of them as quickly as possible to complete the network. We should be encouraging more people to get out and use them for their personal health and well-being and for the benefit of our community and for the benefit of our planet. Why is it that dedicating a small portion of space on often over-engineered roads to build bike lanes that can accommodate hundreds of travelers per hour is deemed unacceptable? Yet handing over the same space for the convenience of individual homeowners to temporarily park private vehicles for free on public property is perfectly okay. It would be wonderful if the cycling network could be completely off-road. But that is a pipe dream that will take decades and unacceptable levels of public money to build. Transportation cyclists and micromobility users travel at 15 to 25 kilometers an hour. They need high-quality pavement, lane markings, safe signalized intersections, and clear sight lines, absent of floods, debris, man-spreading pedestrians, flexi leashes, encroaching branches, ice, snow, and glass. Most of our current pathways and trails are too narrow and built to lesser quality and maintenance standards than is safe, comfortable, or convenient. Existing paths and trails would need to be upgraded and many more built. Building substandard in-boulevard options will not pull people out of their cars, neither will the use of urban shoulders. I don't want to live in a city where road design allocates comfort and safety by class. Right now, I feel like a second-tier citizen in my own city. It takes a decade of advocacy and public engagement for bike lanes to be planned and implemented, yet only months for them to be removed because of a few citizen complaints. A walk-on motion at the AT plan, and the AT plan is suspended in 4 of the 10 wards. 37 kilometers of low-cost, quick turnaround bike lanes disappear without regard for the people who might use them. Not everyone will ride bikes for transportation, but those who can't or won't should be thanking, supporting, and encouraging those of us who do, and not complaining or standing in our way. Yes, the AT&P needs a refresh, but we don't need more delay in implementation while we wait for improvements. Vulnerable road users have been waiting long enough. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Seeing no questions on the board, we'll go on to our next delegation. Dale Lang, Secretary, Bike Brampton.
Good morning, Chair Brar, members of council, staff, and the public. I'm pleased to be here today to speak with you about traffic fatalities, trauma, and equity with regarding bike infrastructure in Brampton. Quoting from a recent letter signed by 120 University of Toronto physicians and researchers, they recently stated that road design must prioritize safety over motor vehicle travel times. Most collisions are preventable. Doctors and EMS workers bear witness to physical trauma of serious injured and the emotional trauma of those left behind. Complete streets with protected bike lanes, they added, reduce this risk. It's better to prevent crashes than to treat the victims. The World Health Organization has declared road safety a public health issue, with motor vehicle collisions remaining one of the leading causes of preventable injury and premature deaths worldwide. Brampton signed the Vision Zero strategy in 2018. From 2017 to 2022, there were 169 cyclist collisions reported in Peel. A group called the Advocacy for Respect for Cyclists has traveled here to join Bike Brampton in paying tribute to cyclists who have been killed in car crashes with ghost bikes installed at the crash sites. I'd like you to see the names and faces and circumstances of some of these victims in Brampton. However, I found out this morning that the clerk's office has denied my request for my slide deck. And these photographs, in fact, were all taken from traditional news media where they were published with the permission of the survivors' families. So I will just describe this to you instead. A hit-and-run driver killed Hardeep Pradesh as he cycled to work at 5:50 a.m. He cycled the 200 meters for his bus connection between Brampton and Toronto on Steeles Avenue. A teenager, Simon, was killed by a minivan driver on Chinguacousy. George Cardswell was killed as he cycled Dixie Road to work at 7 a.m. He was hit by two drivers, one after another, just south of Mayfield. Again, this is all on the public record in traditional news media.
Sorry, point of order. So, in just side conversations with my colleagues, we'd like to see the video, especially if it's already published on the news. Yeah. Okay.
Great. Yeah. Okay. Madam Clerk is ready to go.
So on that point of order?
Yeah.
Madam Chair, if the clerk's offices have said no, then I need to understand why we can't just as council then decide to put it on. If the clerk's office is against it, then...
Madam Clerk, for clarification.
Through you, Chair, just for clarification, there is a video that we do have confirmed permission from the gentleman in the video to share it. There's a presentation that we're going to work with the delegate to tidy up some personal information and some personal health information before we can add it to our post agenda. But the video is ready to go, and we do have confirmation from the gentleman in the video that we're able to share it.
Perfect.
So we can share that now if you like.
Through the chair, I've got two more slides that I have to speak to first before we come to that video. And as for the personal information, I'll be able to explain who Amber is, who's standing here beside me shortly.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the clarification, Madam.
Thank you. Colin Fisher, George Cardswell was killed as he cycled Dixie Road to work at 7 a.m. He was hit by two drivers, one after another, just south of Mayfield. Colin Fisher was cycling home around midnight after helping his girlfriend care for her sick dog. He was killed by a hit-and-run pickup driver. 4 years later, his sister still visits his ghost bike daily on Beauvert between Heritage and Mississauga Road. Prakash Mariupol was cycling to a medical appointment at 9:30 a.m. He was killed by an impaired hit-and-run driver on Humber West. There's a wide multi-use path south of where he was killed. Prakash had only just brought his wife and infant to Canada. These are shocking stories. And this September, a 33-year-old woman was struck by a hit-and-run SUV on Steeles as she crossed the 410 North Ramp. Despite a search for information, we don't know her name, we don't know if she recovered, or we don't know if she succumbed to her critical head injuries.
Dale?
Yes.
Madam Clerk?
Through you, Chair. We're going to jump ahead to the video so we don't
I'm
run out
at
of
there right
time,
now.
But we need to be careful about sharing personal health information. That was included on the slides that we can't share. So we do have the video queued up and ready to go.
Yes.
Just so we don't run out of time before your video is done.
These are my last two slides, and the one with the video is the second one, and the last one deals with Amber here.
But no personal health information.
Okay, Amber can speak to that.
I have no issue.
Okay, at that point, I would say don't bother playing the video because it's more important that we hear from Amber. Thank you. Through the chair. I met Amber right after the Diwali Glow ride. When we completed the ride, we arrived at different spokes, and Amber was there with her son. And perhaps Amber would like to say a couple of words.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. I'm here because my son was hit and had a hit and run. He was riding his bike to school at 8:30 in the morning. The driver decides to turn right without looking. He waited, he stopped a little, and then he still decides to drive over. He's still dealing with a concussion. Today is his first day to go back to school for 2 periods. He's an athlete, but he can't go.
It's okay. It's okay. At different spokes, thank you, Amber. At different spokes, there were 40 cyclists, and we asked for a hands-up poll, and 8 of the 40 have been hit in car crashes. That's 20%. Vulnerable road users have a right to safety on roads. Thank you. Okay, let's go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dale, and thank you, Amber. Seeing no questions, we'll move on to our next delegation. Thank you so much for your delegation. Donna Levens Van West, Brampton resident. Welcome.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to present today. And I very much support safe, formal cycling infrastructure. Next slide, please. I'm your average cyclist. I'm not brave. I cycle in fair weather. I cycle today, that's fine. I cycle short distances. I cycle to run my errands, go to the doctor, go wherever. My husband cycles 12 months a year. He cycles, thinks nothing of cycling from Brampton into Toronto to go to one of his cycle shops. I am your target audience. I'm who you want to get on the road. And urban shoulders don't do anything. And it makes me so frustrated. That's why I'm here today. Next slide, please. Here we have McMurtry with a lovely urban shoulder. Cars parked. There's a lovely line. There's a car going down the road. Where's the cyclist supposed to go safely? I don't ride on McMurtry. I did it last week just to test it. John's behind me for safety, and I'm a nervous wreck. I cycle on Mill. It has cars parked here and there, but it's nowhere near as fast. It wasn't ever near as fast without the speed bumps. Next slide, please. What's an urban shoulder? They're confusing, and this is from Bike 18, which promotes them, and they say they're confusing. People I talk to have no idea what that line is on McMurtry. They're not an alternative to bike lanes. This is Bike 18. They say they're an interim measure to future bike lanes. That urban shoulder has been on McMurtry for years. I don't see any increased activity. I don't ride on it. I would never have a child ride on it. I would never promote it. And the big issue is the safety. Next slide, please. So you have the city's active transportation master plan, which is being revised, and it says they're not considered a designated cycling facility, but they have it in their plan, and they have signed them as bike routes. And worse, they say they're preferred. They're not preferred. They're more risky because people think they're preferred. They're more risky, and it's negligent to encourage people to ride unsafely. Next slide, please. I could not find any other city other than Little Markham that has them on their bike paths. Newmarket has an urban shoulder program. I thought, well, that's interesting. They're on their traffic calming map, along with speed bumps and along with bike lanes. They're not on their bike map because they're not a bike route. Next slide, please. Not only that, it's in direct contradiction to Ontario's Guide to Safe Cycling. I talked to my daughter last night, who does not own a car. She drives all over Toronto. She said it's absurd, these urban shoulders. She said, when I drive down St. George, which has cars parked here and there, I never drive in a free area where there don't happen to be cars parked, because drivers need to be able to predict what I'm going to do as a cyclist. She said, I ride according to the guidelines, she hasn't read the guidelines, but common sense, in a straight line down the road. The cars know what she's doing. She's not weaving in and out. Next slide, please. Sorry? Okay. So you all know this. City staff knows this. You've been told for years. You had a presentation 4 years ago. Here, the majority of the councillors and mayor were here 4 years ago when Lisa Stokes had a video of herself riding down McMurchie on an urban shoulder. You know all of this stuff. Next slide, please. But the city still has it in their future planning. It's completely insane. Where's the evidence? The City of Toronto has data showing that the narrow painted bike lanes and wide urban shoulders do not accommodate people of all ages and abilities. Their quote, it doesn't encourage people of all abilities to ride. Next slide, please. So they need to just go. Cover up the little piece on the map, say it's not a bike lane. Put a sign on existing urban shoulders that say not a bike lane, because you are perpetuating potentially injury and death for people who think it's part of cycling infrastructure.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Donna, for your delegation. Seeing no questions, we'll move on to our next delegation. Jasdeep Singh Patel, retired superintendent engineer, Punjab Water Supply and Sewerage Board. Welcome. You have up to 5 minutes.
Good morning, Chair, Council staff and public. First of all, I had like to introduce myself. I am Jasdeep Singh Patel, a retired civil engineer with 37 years of professional experience from India, and an active bike since I was 8 years old. I was biking then. In India, having a bike in those days was like a SUV of this era. And I have had a PR in Canada since 2015. I am proud of my city of Brampton for providing active transportation, safe biking. I am comfortably computing the length and breadth of the city due to these good bike lanes and well-maintained creeks. I am also able to commute the adjoining cities of Caledon and Brampton and Mississauga. I hope the city will continue with the active transportation policies the restriction of constructing of bike infrastructure on the pretext of mere numbers by the provincial government is not justified, since the bikers help in the improvement of environment and the reduction of carbon emission. You will note that on Highway 400 series, a special lane is built for cars who are occupants are more than two or more than two. Because the more occupants, they are giving less emission of carbon components. So likewise, the city lane should have a bike lane, a must, so that the zero emission people are allowed to commute safely on these roads. And the government of Canada also have targeted to reduce the carbon emission by 2030 and zero emission by 2050. This will be only possible if bikes lanes are also built on each and every road. Governments are even coming out with cycling policies worldwide. The new Pan-European Master Plan across 54 countries in Europe and North America proposes doubling the cycling level by 2030. They are proposing doubling the cycling level by 2030. In India, too, my country, Chandigarh, has come out with a draft cycling policy in 2021, encouraging employees with incentive to cycle to work. They give incentive to work. The people, they are coming 5 days a week and throughout the week on cycle. They give incentive to the work daily. This emphasizes then increase in bike lanes in the cities also. As my friends had appealed, the urban shoulder, the bike lane, it should be a part of, just like our part of body. Bike, every street, every lane should be bike lane should be a part of that lane. Thank you for good wishes.
Thank you, Jasdeep
Any
Singh.
questions?
Thank you, Jasdeep Singh, for your delegation. Seeing no questions, we'll move on to our next delegation. The next delegation is Sasi Kumar, international student, Algoma University in Brampton resident. Welcome. You have up to 5 minutes. Madam Clerk, oh, there she is.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, council members. I'm a temporary resident of Brampton. I'm not a permanent resident. I'm going to be someday. But as a temporary resident, I have to learn my ways to navigate this city. And transit and other forms of active transport is my go-to because of lack of car and my lack of funds, essentially. So let me just give you how my day is, and hopefully one day I could have a better day than the day I'm having right now. Right now, my day starts with all day long, I just bike everywhere because I can be healthy and I have to pay less. As much as it's affordable to take a transit, I prefer to take a bike so I can go anywhere and everywhere all day long. So right now, I'm a bug on the road wherever there is not a cyclist. Essentially, anybody can easily hit me, and I actually got hit 3 times so far. I came in January, and this is not even the end of the year. I already got hit 3 times, and last hit was last week, Friday. So I'm just counting how many days before I got hit. The only few roads there are which has a dedicated bike lane, which I can take and feel like actually I'm part of the transportation instead of feeling like I'm part of someone's burden to drive faster. Like most of the time they come close, and as much as I want to blame them, I can't blame them because everyone is in a hurry. Like everyone tries to do their best to not hit me. It's not someone's intention that they have to drive their car and hit me. It's just they're doing their best, and apparently I am the least person to be on the road right now. So how I would like to be is like I'm part of the actual society, and I don't have to worry about whether I cycle, I drive my car, I take a transit. everything should feel seamless and have to, at the least, should feel safe about it. Right now, I'm battling weather. I'm battling whether there is debris in the space I'm cycling on. And I'm battling that whether I'm actually in the way of someone else, whether they're walking in the multi-use paths or in the creeks. I'm making sure all of that. But the problem is that not every road I transfer has a bike lane. As such, I have to be more careful and I have to worry about the cars too. And they have to worry about me too. Like, it's not like it's one-way issue. It's a both-side issue, actually. Nobody starts their car with like, okay, let me go and hit someone who is biking to where they are going. So the biking has been there for like more than 100 years. I would hope in next 100 years, there would be no incentive needed for someone to bike, to be living an active lifestyle and not pollute and be not a burden to the roads. If everyone stops biking, that would be a nightmare scenario for anyone, even people who are driving right now. So hopefully you guys take a better good care of the whole thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sasi Kumar, for your delegation. Seeing no questions, we'll move on to our next delegation, Lisa Strokes, member, Bike Brampton. Welcome, Lisa. You have up to 5 minutes.
Good morning, council, members of the public. I wasn't sure if I could be here this morning, so I submitted my delegation by video. So if you could start that video, that would be great, and I can come back up if there's any questions. I'm Lisa Stokes, a Bike Brampton member, and one of the 1% of the population who is considered a fearless cyclist. I'll ride anywhere, year-round, whether or not there's cycling infrastructure. I've traveled by bike extensively in Ontario, Quebec, New York State, Alberta, and Eastern Europe. Even though I don't need cycling infrastructure, my favorite places to ride have high quality, all ages and abilities infrastructure. When I delegate to council, I do so to give voice to those who have less time and less knowledge, and for those who are marginalized and underrepresented. Cars cause congestion, not bike lanes. You cannot build your way out of congestion. Cities that have been able to tame congestion do so by investing in public transit and active transportation infrastructure to encourage people to use alternatives to the private motor vehicle. People who can't afford a car are going to use a bike for transportation, whether or not there is cycling infrastructure. The people on bikes that you see in this video are just a few of the thousands of people who already ride bikes for transportation in Brampton and just want to get home unharmed. To protect vulnerable road users and encourage more people to get out of the car, which will reduce congestion and improve public health, we need more active transportation infrastructure, not less. Vasanth, a resident of the city of Brampton, hopes that you will be able to advocate for the presence of bike lanes and be a voice for the community of cyclists in Brampton. Amarpreet is a resident of Mount Pleasant and is writing to you to express support for the implementation and expansion of bicycle lanes throughout our city. Amarpreet states that with Brampton's continued growth, it is essential to promote sustainable and safe transportation options for all residents. The email continues and states that Bill 212 poses a threat to the progress we've made towards enhancing our cycling infrastructure in Brampton, and points out that bicycle lanes play a crucial role in enhancing safety, encouraging active transportation, and alleviating traffic congestion. Amarpreet urges Council to prioritize the development of bicycle lanes in Brampton and engage with local advocacy groups like Bike Brampton to create a comprehensive plan that benefits our community, and looks forward to your support in enhancing the cycling infrastructure in Brampton for a healthier, more connected community. People who ride bikes for transportation in Brampton ask you, their elected officials, to value their safety above the convenience of a few noisy residents complaining about losing on-street parking. Active transportation lanes not only offer people on bikes a safe way to travel, they also have a traffic calming effect, which, as you know from having knocked on thousands of doors, is something that your constituents value. The people on bikes that you see in this video, and thousands of others, ask you to prioritize the implementation of Brampton's plans to build a comprehensive network of active transportation infrastructure and to oppose the provincial overreach into municipal affairs represented by Bill 212. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa Stokes. Seeing no questions from any council members, we'll go on to our next delegation. Welcome Gunjan Sharda, Brampton resident. You have up to 5 minutes.
Good morning, council members and attendees. My name is Gunjan. I'm a lifelong Brampton resident, now a Ward 2 resident, and a young entrepreneur with a vested interest in our city's growth and well-being. My husband and I are raising 2 young boys, ages 2 and 6, and we are deeply committed to building a brighter, healthier future for them right here in Brampton. First, I want to express my full support for maintaining and expanding active transportation infrastructure in Brampton. As our city grows rapidly, so does our responsibility to support sustainable, environmentally conscious transportation options. Bike lanes are essential for creating a healthier, more connected community while helping to reduce both traffic and emissions. We've already seen great strides with Brampton's bike lane infrastructure, and there's so much potential for more. For families like mine, these bike lanes, when implemented with continuous, cohesive paths and proper safety measures, offer safe and viable transportation alternatives. However, there's more work to be done to make this infrastructure truly safe. My son recently learned to ride a 2-wheeler, but I'm not yet comfortable letting him ride on Brampton streets due to safety concerns. For example, gaps in bike lanes near intersections where they're interrupted by turning lanes are a significant safety issue. These types of inconsistencies limit the effectiveness of our active transportation options and deters people like me from using them. I simply cannot ride with my family until I feel safe and a cohesive path is available to ride on. Bill 212 could undermine the advances we've made in promoting a healthy, active lifestyle in Brampton. If vehicle priorities come at the expense of active transportation lanes, we risk losing some of the safety measures and environmental benefits we've already gained. I am the point of contact for the Affiliated Neighborhood Association for my community, a pilot project the city began this year. The program's fundamental goals align with the city's objectives to increase community connectedness, promote physical activity, and increase safety among neighborhoods. The reason I bring this up is the implementation and maintenance of existing active transportation lanes achieves exactly that. For instance, this fall, I joined my first community ride with Brampton, and it was in fact the first time I had ever ridden my bike on an actual road in Brampton in 35 years. It was the first time I actually felt safe riding on a Brampton street. It was highly enjoyable, it got me outdoors, it increased my physical activity for the day, and it immediately made me feel a sense of belonging as I connected with a whole new community I likely would never have met otherwise. Cycling and active transportation lanes did that. I recognize that cycling isn't just a leisure activity for everyone. For many, it's their primary mode of transportation. So it's vital we prioritize safety and maintain these lanes for all Brampton residents, especially those who rely on them daily. While pleasurable, the safety and connectedness I did feel on this ride was because I was in a large group and within the existing bike lanes. These conditions are not consistently available to everyday cyclists all over Brampton, and Bill 212 poses a threat to these bike lanes and therefore the safety of our city cyclists. Globally, we know bike lanes reduce both road congestion and healthcare burdens. Supporting active transportation is a way to address both health and climate concerns in one impactful step. We still have a way to go in normalizing cycling here, but we are on the right path. So I urge you to prioritize the continued development and improvement of Brampton's bike lanes. My sons and all of our children deserve to travel safely, actively, and sustainably without any obstacles or hassle. It's our duty to provide the means, the environment and infrastructure that promotes a healthy lifestyle and encourages people to embrace active transportation. In doing so, we create pathways for healthier habits and build a foundation for a more active, engaged community. Thank you.
Thank you, Gunjan Sharda. Seeing no questions, we'll move on to our next delegation. Leonard D'Souza, Brampton resident, welcome. You have up to 5 minutes.
Good morning, council members. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. My name is Leonard D'Souza, and I'm here to express my deep concern regarding the potential halt in the implementation of the city's active transportation master plan. I understand that there are revisions to the plan being considered, but I urge you to continue the existing efforts towards building safe, accessible, and effective bike lanes and pedestrian pathways even during this period of revision. I've had a bicycle for most of my life. When I was young, riding my bike gave me a sense of freedom. Even though I was only limited to laps around the grounds of my apartment complex in Karachi, Pakistan, all these years later, cycling still brings back that same feeling. I love traveling from place to place at a human pace, taking in the changing sights around me, whether I'm riding in the warmth of summer or crunching through the fallen leaves in the crisp and cool autumn air. I get to experience each season fully on my bike. Recently, I've also been able to share this experience with my little brother during our rides to the downtown bike hub where we volunteer. However, cycling is not just a recreational activity for me. It's a serious mode of transportation that I use in my day-to-day life. As someone who's in the early stages of their professional journey, I currently don't have the financial flexibility to own a car, though I hope to one day do so. I'm sure you are all aware of the expensive auto insurance in Brampton. As such, for new residents, young people, and those who cannot afford the high cost of a car, cycling is a lifeline. It provides a viable, low-cost way to get to work, school, or appointments when one does not have the luxury of other transportation options. I recognize that there are many who think that active transportation infrastructure will take away from car drivers or have no significant benefit. I urge you to look at the plethora of evidence that is present that suggests otherwise. Continuing the implementation of the city's active transportation master plan will be an investment in the future of our city and will show many across the country that Brampton values health, sustainability, and accessibility. Furthermore, I want to stress the importance of not removing any existing bike lanes without proper alternatives in place, as doing so will put me and many who are like me at a disadvantage. I urge you, council members, to consider my story, which is one of many across the city, as you've heard today, and continue the implementation of the active transportation master plan, even while revisions are underway. Let's not let the potential of cycling infrastructure slip away. Instead, let's create a city where everyone has the opportunity to choose affordable, sustainable, and safe transportation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Leonard. Thank you, Leonard, for your delegation. We do have a question for you. Councillor Palesh, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your delegation. Just curious, who informed you or told you that we are thinking about halting or stopping the implementation of the master plan?
I heard that the revisions were underway and it wasn't sure what was going to happen, so I just wanted to delegate today to make sure that, everything continues. Yep.
So nobody told you that we were thinking about halting it or anything?
I've heard it from around people, yeah.
Rumors?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your delegation.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Leonard. Seeing no other questions, we'll move on to our next delegation, Jessica, Speaker, Chair, and Spokesperson, Friends and Families for Safe Streets. Welcome. You have up to 5 minutes.
Good morning, members of Brampton City Council. My name is Jessica Speaker, and I'm a spokesperson for Friends and Families for Safe Streets. We're a group of people whose loved ones were killed by motorists and people like me who survived being hit with severe life-altering injuries, and I want to talk to you about what's at stake with Bill 212. I believe I read in a report that there's a consideration to temporarily suspend any future bike lane installation in response to Bill 212, but I'm here to ask you to keep pressing forward with your existing active transportation plan and keep building safe streets. If you stop, even temporarily, and someone is killed on a street that you otherwise would have made safer, that blood will be on your hands too. Because the undeniable fact is that road safety boils down to a binary choice. You build safe streets, or people continue to be killed in preventable crashes. You have to pick one. What I want to offer you today is my unwilling expertise in the anguish and wreckage and carnage in the aftermath of road violence. In my case, I was struck by a reckless SUV driver who T-boned me off my bike when she made a left turn at high speed without looking. She broke my spine, she inflicted a traumatic brain injury that still plagues me, and did so much soft tissue damage that I nearly died a second time of a huge blood clot that formed in my leg, and then a piece of that broke off, chewed through my heart, and landed across both lobes of my lungs. This crash blew up the future that I was trying to build for myself, and I've had to scrape together what's left of me and try to do something to resemble a respectable adulthood, which feels every day like it's slipping out of grasp. I'm constantly in pain, my body is stiff and inflamed, and I desperately miss who I used to be. But what I went through is nothing compared to what my friends have been subjected to when their loved ones were killed. First, the police call you out of the blue or just show up on your doorstep and deliver the news that shatters your world and your heart into millions of pieces. Next, you probably go to the hospital where your loved one was brought, whether that was your spouse, your child, your parent, your brother, your sister, and you have to see them lying there, dead. Your heart breaks again when you notice the care the healthcare staff took to clean up the blood, but you can still see the spots that they missed. Or your loved one isn't dead yet, and you're trapped at their bedside, frantic with horror and desperation before they succumb to their injuries. You received your loved one's belongings handed back to you in a paper bag, wallet, keys, maybe a wedding ring. You receive back your loved one's bloodied clothing, and you struggle for years to figure out what to do with it. What do you do with it? Do you put it in your basement? Do you wash it? Do you throw it away? What would you do? You're left with an empty chair at your table. Your family holidays are bleached of joy. There's an empty bedroom in your home that is simultaneously silent yet also screaming at you. What do you do as your loved one's scent fades from their old clothes and sheets, and the meager comfort you drew from that withers away? You might receive support from your community in the early days, but it falls away gradually until you feel forgotten. People move on and think you should have gotten over it too, but there's still a gaping hole in your heart that you carry around every second of every day. You're subjected to legal processes that are shockingly hostile and insulting. If the driver gets charged, it's very likely with a trivial Highway Traffic Act, and they might receive a small fine, maybe a demerit point or two if you're lucky. You're utterly denied any sense of justice, and the driver who devastated you is allowed to continue driving and continue endangering the public. And if you sue civilly, you will be treated with such callous hostility and disrespect by the insurance industry, it will make you want to explode. I could go on, but what I want to say is that is what happens in the aftermath of road violence. It's a life sentence for every individual and every family. It's not just numbers, it's not abstract, it's real and it's gut-wrenching and it destroys lives. But the good news is it's easily preventable, and you have the power to prevent it by building safe, complete streets in your communities. You cannot be willing to pay for supposed driving convenience with human life. So I urge you, Push back against Bill 212 with all your might. Do not slow down. Keep going. Build those complete streets. Connect people to their communities. Do something about climate collapse. And ultimately, save lives of Bramptonians. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica, for your delegation. Seeing no questions, we'll move on to Alina, Brampton resident. Welcome. You have up to 5 minutes.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for letting me speak today. I am a bit moved, well, quite moved by Jessica's speech, and all I would like to add right now, please look at me, okay? Please look at me, and please, if you display my last name, Alina Grzejszczak, it's a long spelling, it's easy to remember and easy to distinguish. If you see in any future accident reports because of cycling, that would be me. That would be me being hit, being killed, being maimed, because I do cycle a lot in Brampton. I am a Brampton resident. I came to Canada about 30 years ago. The first thing I was told as a new immigrant, you have to have a car because you would not be able to find a job, to hold the job, to do your job without the car. That's what I did. I had to have a driver's license first because I didn't have it before. I had to drive my car to my job, to my 2 jobs, to my 3 jobs. That's what I did. And as a driver, I was not really that confident. I was not a good driver. I had a few fender benders until I ended up in the insurance company category of risky drivers. And then I kind of thought, I'm not risky. I don't cause too much damage, just fender benders. But then, do I have any assurance that my next collision would be not maiming someone or myself and causing lots of damage? So I did look at my record. I was driving for about 20 years. My insurance went high rise, like $700 a month, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I gave up driving the car. I have my license. I do know the road, rules of the road. I started cycling. And since then, as a pedestrian, I've been in a collision. As a driver, I've been in a collision. Luckily, so far, I have not been in a collision as a cyclist. I did cycle in Brampton when there was practically no bike lanes other than the one on Rutherford, which is the oldest, I believe. And now I cycle, and to my way to work, I manage to cycle practically all the time on bike lanes or through the parks. I feel safe, I feel confident. I was riding the same route on Woden before the cycling lanes were installed. I was driving on the road. Just keep in mind, if we don't build the bike lanes, or if we remove the existing bike lanes, where will the cyclists go? They still will go on the road. Those who cycle on sidewalks now will be cycling on sidewalks, but there are lots of us who cycle on the roads, and we will. This is not a mean to shorten the drive for the drivers to remove bike lanes. This is not a mean to reduce gridlock. This is like some political cheap points that someone else wants to score outside of our community. And please have the courage, have the compassion to all the diverse people who use roads in Brampton, streets of Brampton, and who you represent as councillors. And please keep in mind that if anything happens to the cyclist, you may recall a person like me who is having right now 2 part-time jobs. I ride my bike everywhere in the city, and I go wherever I arrive to my work. Other people are saying, You came on a bicycle. Are you not scared? This is so unsafe. And I trust the cyclists in Brampton will feel more safe with more bike lanes, more protected bike lanes, with the drivers who actually get used to seeing cyclists on the road, because that's what bike lanes do. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Alina, for your delegation. Seeing no questions, we'll go on to our next delegation. Will be from Scooty. There should be some members, or a member. Thank you. Welcome. You have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. Does the clerk have the presentation ready?
Yeah, just give us 1 moment.
No problem. And the video is tested? Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much to the committee and to the audience as well. Thank you very much for your presentations, your comments. I'm only here to speak a little bit of our experience with the micromobility program, the e-scooters, which have been running in the city of Brampton in 2023 and 2024. I'm going to show you just a quick video and talk a little bit about some of the groups of riders or avatars or personas as we've seen them. If we could go to the next slide. So what I'll be doing, as I said, is I'll be showing you a video of basically e-scooter rides, approximately 120,000 e-scooter rides taking place in the city of Brampton between 2023 and up to approximately July of this year. Some of you have already seen the video, but I want to also explain it to the audience who's going to be seeing it for the first time. What we see essentially is that there are three major service clusters in Brampton. There's actually four, but there's three major ones, and you'll see them when the video shows you. Essentially, Mount Pleasant, Springdale to Bramalea, so essentially on the east side of Highway 410, and then the Castlemore area. And what we are seeing is very, very significant ridership that's really traveling north and south. Okay? There is a lot of east-west ridership, but the most riders are traveling north and south. They're traveling from northwest Brampton to the Mount Pleasant GO station. They're traveling from Springdale to Bramalea and the Bramalea GO station. And they're traveling around Castlemore basically to get to Beauvert Drive and Queen Street. And they are traveling on Beauvert Drive between Castlemore, the Castlemore area, and the Trinity Common bus terminal. Those are significant distances as well as short local distances, and people are taking a variety of trips using a variety of infrastructure. And when the infrastructure is not available, then they're riding on the streets, they're riding on shoulders, they're riding on roads that they probably shouldn't be riding on and would be safer if they weren't riding on. The other three major observations that I've pointed out, there is a high demand to connect to transit. And what we did with this video was we measured it according to travel to and from bus stops and terminals. So if we can go to the next slide, and I hope that the video will queue up, but while they do that, I just want to show a couple of points. You can see the Brampton boundaries in blue. You can see Highway 410 and Highway 407 in gray, and you can essentially see where the ridership starts. Look out for Bramalea GO station, look out for Mount Pleasant GO station, look out for when Castlemore appears, because we didn't serve it right at the beginning of the season. You will also see the season die down at the end of the year and then restart on May 1st almost immediately. Ridership just jumped fantastically. So let's see the video. Yeah, I think the video is going to separate. It is the slide before that, yes. It's, pardon? It should be embedded, but if it's not embedded, then perhaps we'll have to present that separately.
Madam Clerk,
Yeah.
for clarification for the.
To you, Chair, it doesn't seem to be embedded.
Okay.
However, we can add the link to our post agenda to make sure that it does become part of the public record.
Okay.
If we can't get it going now, we'll give it another try, though, if you have a moment.
Okay, of
Councillor
course.
Santos, just want to comment quickly?
I saw that there's a link that you have to click. Is there a link? Oh, okay.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Thank you.
Okay. So I can, oh, here we go. All right. I think this will work. But if not, no, I was just going to continue with the presentation then, the remainder of the presentation. Of course. So I just need the last slide. And essentially what I was going to talk about is that we've seen fantastic usage of the bike lane infrastructure and the multi-use path infrastructure and the trail infrastructure and street infrastructure. And we've grouped our riders into essentially 4 groups of riders. There are young people who are going to and from school, high school and university and college. We have a large number of riders who are using micromobility or e-scooters as a flexible mode. So they'll use Uber, they'll take taxis, they'll take transit when it's convenient, and they'll use e-scooters when it's convenient. We have one rider who's our top rider who spent over $1,800 on e-scooters in the past 2 years. And we're seeing a lot of people who are taking e-scooters to and from GO stations to get to transit. And it's fantastic because it proves our thesis that e-scooters and micromobility are a great way to connect to and from transit. Now, in the context of the discussion that we're having today, and I'm just going to quickly wrap up, the data that we provide from the e-scooter pilot is a good way for the city to help understand where people are starting and ending trips and where they are traveling. And the fact that they're using the infrastructure is positive. The fact that they're using places where there is no infrastructure is informative because it tells us that there are places where infrastructure could be very helpful, and there are places where infrastructure may just not be needed. We're having a conversation that has to be driven by data and driven by logic and driven by understanding. And for the sake of the work that we're doing, I think it's really important to conclude by saying that this has to be calm and measured and logical and sensible, and it should not be highly politicized. It should not be for the interests of one small group. Staff have been working very hard on the Active Transportation Master Plan. They've been working very hard on the e-scooter program. They've been working very hard on bike lane infrastructure. And I would conclude by saying that they need the time and they need the support from committee and from council and from the city of Brampton to do their work, to continue to do their work and bring forward the best solutions for the city of Brampton that will keep the roads safe and keep people safe. Thank you.
Thank you for your delegation. Madam Clerk, were we able to get the video started?
Through you, Chair, we aren't able to start it. IT is going to give us a hand to make sure that we can post it online for sure.
Thank you so much. We will bring the report forward at this time, 9.1.1.
Yep.
And 9.2. Yes.
And I'm here for questions as well if there are.
We just have it working right now.
We're out of time. It's up to you, Chair.
Maybe if we can just give them
Perhaps
a
we
minute.
could restart it.
Just a 1-minute video.
So maybe you could just describe what's happening in this video a little bit.
Of course, if we can just start at the beginning and then also go to full screen so everybody can see.
We probably can't.
Okay.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Okay, so what you're seeing is e-scooter rides starting and ending destinations. You can see the yellows are where the rides are starting. You can see the Bramalea GO station in the middle of the image. You can see there's Bramalea GO station appearing right now. Chinguacousy Park is right behind it. You can see Castlemore on the right side. You can see the long trips that people are willing to take, are ready to take in the city. You can see the season now dying down in November. And then we'll begin in May 1st, almost immediately. We had good weather, but it was also May. People responded and started riding throughout the city. And we were especially pleased with the numbers at Bramalea GO Station because we worked with the city to facilitate a conversion of a sidewalk to a multi-use trail, which allowed people to ride to and from the GO Station. And we saw a 30% increase in rides almost immediately. So this is a good example of how working with staff, being creative, finding solutions and being focused on finding solutions is really effective. And we as a company are pleased to be able to work with staff and have staff who want to find solutions with us. Thank you.
Thank you for your delegation. And at this time, we will be bringing forward the accompanying staff presentation report, which will be 9.1.1 and 9.2.2. First, we do have Councillor Santos on the board. Councillor Santos.
Thanks. Through you, Madam Chair. It's no secret that Councillor Santos is a big advocate and supporter of active transportation in the network. So I want to say thank you to all the delegates for providing your delegations today. A lot of new faces, like the majority are new faces. I've probably seen you on the infrastructure myself at various points in time. What I will say is, as a cyclist myself, as an advocate, as a supporter of what we're trying to do and increase mobility options here in our city, and also as someone who has read the facts and the data and the evidence and experiences a significant amount of pressure from residents who don't believe that people use the bike lanes or the active transportation infrastructure, or the pressure from folks who, quite frankly, really just don't like the bike lanes for just being there. It's a lot of pressure on myself, on others on this council. But ultimately, the data, the evidence, the facts are there, and I know that staff are going to be presenting as well. I don't have much to add, to the delegations, so I want to say thank you for showing up today, taking the time off work, sharing your courageous stories. To Mr. Jasdeep for coming in today, because I see Punjabi uncles all the time on the active transportation network. I see bikes at our parks that don't have bike racks in them. And when people say to me that no one ever uses them, they're actually saying that you don't use them. And not just that you don't use them, but all the people that you know don't use them. And I see them all the time. So to turn a blind eye and say that it's not being used, with the delegations who are here today from all different walks of life, all different experiences in cycling, and to the delegate who came up and talked about the accident, you're probably still riding. You're probably still encouraging people to ride, right? And so I really wanted to say thank you for coming in today to take the time to delegate. I'm very happy to refer all the delegations to the mobility plan process and the mobility plan. The City of Brampton, as we all know, is revising and bringing forward a new mobility plan. And I want to just make sure that all your feedback, all of your delegations are part of that process as well. So happy to refer the delegations into that process in the mobility plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Santos. Before we bring the motion, we do have Councillor Palashi on the board.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll start by just with Scooty, and that video was fantastic, and seeing the ridership, the increase has been truly magnificent over right across the city, especially at Mount Pleasant. Absolutely love it. In the beginning, it was difficult because of the amount of calls that we were getting for, and I'm not pointing any fingers, because I think there was 3 that were taking place at the pilot. I don't know, are we down to 2 now, or is it just the 1? Regardless, still 3. and I don't know which one's which, but still getting complaints from residents that are trying to cut their grass and they have to cut around a scooter that's been thrown on their front lawn. And you still see it kind of out and about. It's a lot less than what it certainly was in the beginning. And I always knew that, you know, it would get better, and it is getting better, and I'm glad to see that it is getting better. I used the scooters that were out in Ottawa when we were out for AMO, and as frustrated as I was trying to find the location where I had to park this thing, I thought that was fantastic because I'm not leaving it where it doesn't belong. It was left. I had to take the scooter to where it had to be, and that's where I think we want to be. Certainly in Brampton, with a lot more locations right across the city. So still continue to love the program, and it's going to get bigger and better. And I loved that video. It was absolutely, and I think Councillor Barr and myself are really happy that the majority of those lights were coming out of Mount Pleasant. So that was fantastic. On some of the other comments, and I kind of feel like, you know, the rumors and the spiraling from my comments about what we did on October 21st Planning Committee relates to some of the people being out here. In no way am I saying, and I'll speak just for myself, that I wish to stop the implementation of the plan. I have always been an advocate for bike lanes, dedicated bike lanes. I don't like the look of these, what do they call, urban shoulders, or where you can park on a bike lane. I've never said that I like them. I never even liked kind of the looks of them or the use of them. That's something that was proposed, and at that time, I think after staff had mentioned the urban shoulders, we'll call them urban shoulders, correct? Then I had said, okay, well, you know, we'll look at that across the city, but I'm not saying that that's what it should be. If council wants to say, we're not going to build any more of those, I'll support it. That's fine with me. The reason why Councillor Brar and myself, and we talk about this on a daily basis almost, about the bike lanes that are being put into the residential neighborhoods. The communication that we get from the residents on those streets greatly outnumber anybody that's even riding bikes in the city of Brampton. And we have to look at what they want as much as what everybody else wants, but also by doing the right thing. And that's what we continue to try and do. We've always said, and I've always stated, that I want a major infrastructure right across the city of Brampton. And some of our residents know that Kennedy Road has been something that I've been wanting all the way from Mayfield all the way down to Derry Road. I've wanted a bike lane on that. Sandalwood, we're working with the province. We've been working hard with the province to try and get a dedicated bike lane right across Sandalwood from east to west. Unfortunately, I think those talks have fallen through, and now we need to take it upon ourselves. We've had the discussions with Commissioner Ganesh as well, because he lives close to Sandalwood, and he's come up with some great ideas of Sandalwood Road and putting that dedicated bike lane. It's not about listening to one person over the other. It's about trying to solve the problem when you have so many people communicating to us saying that they don't want a bike lane in front of their house. We know what's right. We know what the right thing to do is. We absolutely know what the right thing to do is. But we have to work through it. You can shake your head all you want, but we have to work through it because they have a voice just as much as everybody else has a voice. And that's why we put the delay. That's why we put the halt on the couple areas in our specific wards. And we'll continue that halt until we wanted staff to come and dissect Bill 212. Not a huge advocate of any bills that come through that to the municipalities that tell us what to do. Don't like any other level of government telling what a municipality should do. This province seems to be doing that a lot. You might as well take away council and let them do everything themselves, and that's what they tend to do anyway with all the bills that they're coming and ramming down our throats. But I'm the first one that's going to stand up and push back. but I also need to fully understand when the province puts forward a bill, what they truly mean, because when they announce the bill, you know nothing, just like every other bill that they've ever announced. They announce this much, and then all the details comes later. So regardless, I digress on that, but I fully support the plan on a go forward, but I also want, and I'm going to make it, I think our mission that we've stated, we need these major roads to be completed all the way from Mayfield to Derry, all the way from East 50 to Winston Churchill. We need the Sandalwoods to have that dedication right across the city. I need Chinguacousy to extend all the way past. Take it into your wards if you want, but I need to get it through my area, not just have it in one little block. Mavis, Chinguacousy, McLaughlin, Mississauga Road, Credit View, Heritage Road eventually, Winston Churchill eventually. And that's the goal, and I think connecting the dots therein before or after will happen. But that's what my driver's always been. That's what I've always said that I wanted to do. And I'll continue to advocate and push for more bike lanes and dedicated bike lanes, because I don't think that there's any other type of bike lane that should be out there other than the dedication of bikes. I want to keep people as safe as possible. When you're riding your bike on the road, which I don't do, I don't know if I'll ever do. I don't think I share a road with a car. I don't allow my children to do it. And that's me though, because I don't feel safe. I don't have the courage like a lot of people do have, but I'm a motorcyclist, and I think I feel the same way that cyclists feel when they're out there. I feel like the cars around me don't see me, and I have to be really cautious of every other vehicle on the road. And as a cyclist, I think that you feel that same way, and that's something that you shouldn't feel. It's something that as a motorcyclist, I'll always feel that way. But as a cyclist, I think we have a job in the city that we can hopefully change that in the future. Dedication of bike lanes is that change, I believe, and hopefully we'll continue to go that way, progress, and do it as fast as possible and as greatly as possible right across the city. I think with Councillor Santos's leadership on this council, we're above other cities in their progression and thinking of where we want to be, but getting there is always going to be a struggle like everything else. But we'll get there, and I'll continue to support and help as much as possible. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Palashi. Councillor Fortini.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through Sudi, just a quick question. Maybe if you could come up. So I seen the video, was very impressed, and I know we had that discussion a couple of weeks ago about it, and I've used it like in Germany, other parts of Italy and stuff. Really fun. What speed do they actually hit top speed?
So the top speed is limited to 20 kilometers an hour.
Sorry?
20 kilometers an hour.
20.
This is the limit that started in the city of Ottawa, and basically every Ontario municipality has adopted that since.
And we could control the speed if you
Yes.
want to.
Yes.
So I'm getting a lot of complaints as we spoke, on the paths.
Yes.
A lot of the seniors go for walks. And this summer, there was a senior really badly hit and hurt. So is there any way maybe on the paths, like around Chinguacousy Park, or any path that they actually go to control maybe the speed to bring it down to 15 or 12 or
Yes.
whatever? Just on the path part, because a lot of people do walk their dogs, they walk them, kids are kids, let's face it. I was there once myself, and you don't think of the opposite person. So maybe if we could look at that.
I would be pleased to do that, to work with staff to do that. And I think this also reinforces an important point that if we want to build safe, transportation of any sort, we need to be considering safety, but there's three important parameters. You need to have the network, you need to have the safe infrastructure, and you need to build that safe culture. And we're doing what we can to promote safe riding, and reminding people that it's very important. But there are times when we're going to have to step in and make specific changes and solutions. And just like with the bike lane infrastructure, there are places where some solutions are going to work more effectively than others, and that's why it's important to use data and work with staff who are the professionals and the experts in all of these things. I can only speak to micromobility, but they are speaking to safety and bike lanes and provincial policies and regulations and budgets and all of that. And the solution really comes from working together and building solutions together. Thank you. Are there maybe any further questions?
And so, because a lot of these people, saying, we should put up signs, no scooters allowed on paths, we don't want to do that, but if we could lower the speed and, let them also enjoy it while they're walking, and also the scooters and even the bikes. I know the bikes will be hard to control, the speed, because each one owns their bike, but we have the technology, like you said, on the scooters at least to lower it down. So, thank you.
And this is where culture may be an even more effective solution than technology.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fortini. Councillor Power.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. Just to Scooty again, there was something that you had said at the end of your presentation about Bramalea GO Station. What was implemented that made the rides that much more?
In that case, there was a 200-meter section of sidewalk which ends at the bottom of the Chinguacousy Trail, or the south end of the Chinguacousy Trail, to the Bramalea GO Station. And provincial regulations do not allow e-scooters to be used on sidewalks, so that essentially created a 200-meter gap that prevented us from being able to service the station. Servicing the station is very important to us because, as I said before, transit connectivity is important to us. So we approached staff and we discussed if there was a possibility to make a change or make some decision to administratively change that sidewalk to a multi-use path. Staff brought that to other staff in the city, and they had a very effective discussion about where and when it would be safe. And they made the decision, and then council approved the bylaw change to allow that to happen. That's the answer.
So that multi-use path, do you have numbers of how many people then started to use that to get to Bramalea GO Station?
We have shared data with the city staff, and I believe that staff has the information overall of where people are using it and how much use is being done on different types of infrastructure in the city. Specific to that, we were given a 600-meter section of sidewalk. I don't have specific numbers about how many increase, but as I said in the presentation, approximately 30% increase. I can't say that a significant portion are using that section of sidewalk. There may be other people that are traveling in other directions. For example, along Steeles Avenue, we know that people are technically using the north side of Steeles Avenue. It's technically a bike lane according to the Region of Peel, or a multi-use path, even though it doesn't appear to be. There's a multi-use path on Dixie, so I can't say that significant numbers have started to use that sidewalk. I'm not doing that count. That would be staff doing that count. So if staff has that information, I would be pleased to find out what we can do with the information that we have, but I don't have that information.
So the original plan when we introduced scooters, the 2-year pilot project, that they wouldn't be allowed on sidewalks, that they would slow down and come to a halt if somebody were to get on a sidewalk.
Yes.
Are scooters being used on sidewalks today?
There are scooters being used on sidewalks today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Power. Any other questions? Seeing none. Just wanted to say thank you to all the residents who have come out here, looking from all ages. And, it takes a lot of effort to come to the podium, to delegate, talking about the issues that really matter in Brampton. I think what I'm hearing around the floor here, we all have the same goal. And how do we work together to come to that same goal? And, thank you, Councillor Santos, for being an advocate and always talking about the active transportation plan and promoting that. So again, thank you so much. We do have a motion moved by Councillor Santos to refer the delegation to the mobility plan. Mobility plan. All in favor? Thank you. The motion carries. And we do have our presentation by our staff and the report coming forward. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, committee members, staff, and residents in chambers. My name is Nelson Cadet. I am the Manager of Transportation Planning. We can proceed to the second slide. We're up. So included on the agenda of today's meeting is a report in response to a resolution that was passed at an October 21st Planning and Development Committee, and it directed staff to analyze the proposed bike lane legislation contained within Bill 212, consider alternative solutions for balanced transportation, and include data on transportation usage beyond bicycles for a future council discussion. So ironically enough, on that same day, the Government of Ontario introduced Bill 212, which is the Reducing Gridlock, Saving You Time Act, intended to address vehicle gridlock and ease traffic congestion for drivers, including measures to restrict the implementation of bike lanes. Specifically in the bill, it states that a municipality cannot construct, install, mark a bicycle lane on any highway unless the design has been approved by the Minister of Transportation. This is applicable where bicycle lanes would reduce the number of general purpose vehicle lanes. The legislation also states that it will be applicable to municipalities that are designated by a regulation. It does not apply to any bicycle lanes currently under construction or under contract to be constructed. And finally, the minister has the ability to review existing bicycle lanes that may require the municipality to provide information regarding traffic flow. So the current status of that bill, the proposed legislation has received a second reading and has been deferred to the Standing Committee on Heritage, Infrastructure, and Cultural Policy. There will be one more reading before it can get passed and will come into effect once it has received royal assent, which is expected before the end of the year. The regulation that designates municipalities is expected to come after the legislation has come into effect. So at this point, we don't know if the proposed legislation would even be applicable to the city. Next slide, please. So the MTO is the Ministry of Transportation Ontario is soliciting feedback through a posting through the Environmental Registry. Not knowing whether the legislation directly impacts Brampton, staff had still prepared a draft response to the ERO posting that speaks to some of the concerns with the proposed bill. A more detailed summary of our comments are included within the report, but some highlights include potential overreach by the province and inconsistencies with a number of provincial and city policies that prioritize walking and cycling as a key to the future mobility of the city, transportation equity, and building complete communities. Next slide, please. So we understand that we're not going to achieve a significant behavioral change when it comes to travel options overnight, but we have compiled a few data points that are suggesting that we are starting to make some progress. So I'll start with the chart to the left, which is titled Average Travel Time. So this data here was collected along 5 corridors. These corridors are 4-lane collector roads that recently were converted to 2 lanes with bicycle lanes, so directly in line with the intent of Bill 212. So Central Park between Queen Street and Bramalea, Vaudin between Ken Willans and Howden Boulevard from Williams Parkway to North Park Drive from Williams Parkway to Bramalea, and finally Charlet from James Potter Road all the way to Main Street here at Tertiary South. So the comparison here is actually the times to traverse the corridors. So they're actually indicated on the top of each of the bars. So the yellow bar is data from prior to the bicycle lanes being installed, and then the blue represents the travel time after the bicycle lanes were installed. So you can see, across the corridor, consistently across the corridor, we're seeing those improvements, or there hasn't been the impact as suggested in Bill 212 that, bicycle lanes would lead to congestion. Well, not in the case of Brampton anyways. We can speak about these 5 corridors, that we're not experiencing that phenomenon of road diets equals congestion. So second slide, more geared toward safety improvements as a result of those road diets. So the same 5 corridors, same colored bars before and after the bike lanes were implemented, but the bars themselves actually represent the 85th percentile speed, which in the industry is equivalent to the typical operating speed. Typically that's used to sort of measure the performance of a roadway. So as you can see again, across all 5 of the corridors you're seeing improvements. So we're actually reducing the overall, operating speed of the road, providing a more favorable, environment for the communities that these corridors traverse through. And then finally, the chart to the right, the bar chart to the right, is representing bicycle trips. So what we've done here, we've got 5 different permanent count stations that we've implemented over the course of the last several years. More recently, so 4 of those locations were installed actually last year. And what we're showing here is a growth in bicycle trips. So these count stations are located on recreational trails, and they're actually labeled there: Esker Lake, Chinguacousy Trail, Dondon Trail, and the Etobicoke Creek Trail at 2 different locations. So it's well represented across the city. And then the yellow represent monthly bicycle trips from October of 2023 versus the blue that represent bicycle trips from October 2024. So as you can see, for the most part, we're experiencing increases across the board. There is one exception, and that's the Dondon Trail, and that's related to some construction activity that was happening this past month along that trail around Professor's Lake. The last point I'll make on this chart is that Esker Lake, you're seeing more than just the 2 bars, and that's because that counter has been in place for a number of years, but you can see the last 4 years, and that October, we're definitely seeing a growth over the course of those 4 years. The 2 data points sort of below those charts, the first one was provided by Peel Public Health. And what they've done is they shared with us preliminary results of a health economic assessment that is currently being conducted to estimate the potential health impacts and social impact value of the Brampton Mobility Plan's aim to increase the walking and cycling mode share and improve road safety. So the preliminary results of this analysis shows that there's a potential cost saving of over $20 million per year related to the prevention of premature deaths if we achieve those walking and cycling mode share targets outlined in our Brampton Mobility Plan. And then finally, the last data point there relates to that tie between active transportation and transit and Metrolinx and the work they're doing to support active transportation. Not only are they, they have plans for improvements at their stations related to active transportation and cycling, they're also investing in increase and improvements to service. So in March of 2024, Metrolinx announced that they were adding bike coaches on the Kitchener line to address the demand for both bicycles and e-bikes that are destined from Brampton to downtown Toronto. Next slide, please. So the cycling facilities also provide safe travel lanes for our electronic scooters. I think it's noteworthy that the province is currently, or just recently extended that pilot. So they're currently piloting the trial of scooters across the province. They've extended it an additional 5 years. This is some of the results we've taken from that data. So the graphic or that map illustrates results from 2023, and it's a heat map following the legend. The lighter colors are the lower end of the trip numbers, daily trip numbers, and as the color gets darker toward that dark purple, that's higher daily trips for the corridors. And you can see, I think, what this map represents, that the focus of e-scooter trips has been on those corridors that contain these bicycle lanes and active transportation infrastructure. What I've done purposely is we've labeled those 5 corridors that we previously mentioned in the previous slide, and you can see that the Charolais, the Vaudin, the Howden, those are the sort of the areas of concentration that the e-scooters are being ridden on. A couple of data points from 2024's season. Over 10,000 of the trips, so that's 17% of the total rides from one of the operators took place on one of those on those 5 corridors: Central Park, Baden, Howden, North Park, and Charlet. And then finally, over 28,000 trips, so 60% of the rides started and or ended within 500 meters of those same corridors. Next slide, please. So this slide includes a couple of graphics that we've taken from our Brampton Mobility Plan work. And what we're seeing in this line graph is that the latest projections predict that by 2051, the city of Brampton's population is expected to grow by 430,000 people and 200,000 jobs. This is equivalent to the current population of Oakville and Burlington combined. As a result of this growth, the future travel demand on Brampton's transportation system is expected to increase by an additional 185,000 trips in the morning peak period alone. Today, most trips are made by the private automobile, and if current trends continue, we'll see an increase of 150 car trips in the morning peak period alone by 2051. However, if we achieve the mode share targets from the Brampton Plan by increasing the transit mode to 25% and the active transportation mode share to 11%, we can reduce the number of cars we see in the morning peak by 70,000 vehicles. Next slide. So the implementation of the city's first active transportation plan was focused on quick wins and delivering portions of the network that would be low cost and did not require extensive design time. This allowed the city to build 78 kilometers of cycling infrastructure in 5 years and provide a significant kickstart to the network. This work has been complemented by improvements to the existing park paths and trails by implementing curb cuts and AT-friendly road crossings where trails and paths meet the city's road network. A total of 98 curb depressions and 39 pedestrian crossings have been introduced to the network since the endorsement of the plan. The city's first active transportation master plan was endorsed by council in 2019, and as with other long-range master plans, the city's active transportation master plan is not a static document and it is intended to be reviewed periodically. At the time of its endorsement, staff suggested that it could be done in tandem with the 5-year transportation master plan's review cycle, and given the most recent review of the TMP, or the Brampton Mobility Plan, is expected to complete next year, and with the lessons learned from the last 5 years of ATMP implementation, we feel like it's the right time to update the plan. So staff have allocated funding in the 2025 budget submission to update the city's active transportation master plan. So while the master plan is being updated, which could take up toward 18 months, it is important that the city continue to deliver the active transportation network. And on this slide, we've outlined an interim implementation strategy while we update that or undertake that ATMP update. So the first bullet, our focus, as suggested by council in response to some of the delegations, is we're going to start moving away from that quick win. I think we have a solid network in place, and looking at more of those strategic, more costly, mind you, but strategic links that are going to attract to more ridership on those arterial roads, and move away from or less focus on the local streets and more on the sort of the arterial roads, creating that main arterial network. The second point, although our preference is still bicycle lanes, in the instance where there is the need to implement cycling infrastructure on a collector street, staff's open to considering an urban shoulder as an alternate facility, as long as it's paired with speed mitigation devices such as a speed cushion. And then, of course, at the request of council, staff will also investigate the appropriateness of alternate solutions for existing bike lanes as well. And then finally, if there's the desire and it's the right timing, where there is projects that require that provincial approval, staff's willing to do that. We'll fulfill those obligations with the province. But in addition to that, we're willing to extend that public engagement directly to the quarter level, ensure that all residents affected are well, educated with the benefits of cycling, and any, comments, suggestions, or improvements to design are incorporated into a final design and implementation. And I believe that's the last slide. So I'll open up to committee for any questions.
Thank you so much for that presentation. We do have Councillor Power on the board.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nelson, great work.
Thank you.
I will tell you did great work. I know you and your team are readily available, and we've had some very intense conversations, and I appreciate it. And I'm glad this report outlines the workshop that we did in July, right? So you've gone and you've talked about doing bike lanes or multi-use pathways on boulevards, and I think that's the way forward, and I think that's the way to go. But I do have some questions in regards to the report that's before us. I ask you a personal question.
Personal question?
Yeah. Do you think the current iteration of bike lanes within the city is safe for all ages and all abilities?
So I think it's important to do a little Book 18, bicycle guideline 101, first of all. So we would never put a piece of cycling infrastructure that wouldn't be safe. So I think it is safe. I'm professional. I'm following industry standards, industry guidelines. We're not implementing, and there's other jurisdictions that sometimes I question, the use of a dedicated cycling space. We are well risk averse when it comes to our cycling infrastructure.
I'm going to go back to the Scooty reference and the scooters. The ridership, are you able to determine how many are on sidewalks versus the roads and bike lanes? Or is it just ridership based on Scooty's numbers?
We do have that data continues to be collected. It is stored. We are working through an RFP right now that's going to allow us access to that data, but we have, we have used this in a trial period in the past, so we know we could have access to that data. That's correct.
Okay. So, and maybe this is Public Works, when we're adding these green paint or this green paint to some of these side roads, are we doing it at night? Because I know 2 weeks ago on Veterans Drive, and actually I want to know the process to it, because on Veterans Drive 2 weeks ago, they were painting them at night, at about 11 o'clock at night, and they were scoring with, it was a concrete truck or whatever. I'm not technical, so I'm not going to go, but they were scoring the asphalt to paint these lines. Are they supposed to be doing it at night? And what is the actual process?
Through the chair, perhaps I'll ask our manager of traffic to provide some details with respect to that.
Because I'd like to know what the cost associated to doing work at night, because anybody that you do work at night, it's going to cost you overtime. And any corporation, you have the ability to manage your P&L based on 3 criteria, and one of them is staff wages.
Through the chair to Councillor Power, most pavement marking companies do work through the evening. There's less traffic, and with traffic on the road during the day, there's more risk of the workers being at risk from vehicles, and also vehicles tend to drive over the paint, and then it gets all over the road in their cars. So typically these companies do work at night, generally starting around 10 at p.m. and then into the morning, 5 a.m. or so, I would say.
Okay. And the cost? Do you have an average cost?
Through the chair to Councillor Power, I don't have the cost, because I do have the cost, but just to let you know, that's not overtime for them, that's their normal work day.
Okay, that's more important, the overtime piece. So, that's fine, thanks. I noticed some numbers in there when your implication of replacing on-road bicycle lanes to boulevard facing. And you've got some numbers in there of estimated costs. We had the workshop in July, and we had different members or different people from different departments within the city at that workshop. In August 2nd, you sent me a document that outlines some of the numbers that it could cost. The numbers are dramatically different. Can you explain the difference in the cost?
Capital implementation costs? I actually, yeah, well, we'll have to consult, because the reference of this was actually from your document that we put together for you, so I'll have to have a
I'll
closer
give you the
look.
numbers. It was $700 a square meter, or sorry, linear meter. And now you're saying it's approximately $2,000 a kilometer. Because that's a very cost-effective way of doing things, at $2,000 a kilometer.
2,000, I think that's a maintenance. That's a maintenance cost.
Maintenance cost.
Yeah, so those maintenance costs, so there's a comparison, the second part, we provided capital costs up front and a comparison of a bicycle lane versus multi-use path and the separated bicycle lane, and then there was maintenance costs provided. So those are the maintenance in Boulevard facility, no different from that separated bicycle lane, and this is from a road operations group, would be the $2,000 per kilometer. Sorry, it's that last sentence that distinguishes the top half from the maintenance. We felt a necessary exercise to outline that there is a maintenance implication as well. If you have a bicycle lane on the road, there's no additional cost. If you are separating them or putting them in the boulevard, there's additional maintenance cost.
What's the cost of buying new equipment to plow the protected bike lanes?
I did inquire about that. I believe in year one, we rented a piece of machinery. I was told that is factored into these costs here. Is that this is the best
So we don't know
comparison
what the
for
cost
maintenance.
of the new equipment, because we know we're purchasing new equipment now.
I would not know.
No, apparently they have to have something different because of the blade.
Through the chair, if I could, maybe Councillor Power, certainly staff would endeavor to bring back some of that, those exact costs for you either before the 20th, which is the next council meeting, when this report would be ratified, or certainly through a briefing note to council or a separate discussion with you.
And then can we also get the costs associated with maybe extra hours that are going to be used to run or plow these bike lanes, these protected bike lanes, with new machinery versus, and a plow running behind it?
Through the chair, we can certainly work with Public Works and Engineering to provide that. I would just, if I could, through Councillor Power, staff were asked to bring back a report on the merits of the legislation of Bill 112 and look at high-level capital and operating costs. So certainly we can continue to do that, but the spirit of the proposed legislation is really the province's ability to designate or de-designate bike lanes. I would suggest to council that the capital and operating costs of bike lanes in Brampton is solely at the discretion of council versus just Bill 212.
And I don't know if we can ask this now, but I'll ask it anyway. I haven't seen any data as to traffic on Howden and Dixie, or at the intersection of Howden and Dixie. And we went down a narrative where we say that we don't have enough in the budget for policing to go after major crimes, such as break-ins, vehicle thefts, or other things. But yet we directed Peel Police to sit on that corner for 29 hours to talk about bike lanes to motorists. So what is the data that's there at Dixie and Howden to have that protected bike lane that's really the bone of contention in Ward 7, and I'm sure my council colleague can attest to it? What is the data for collisions involving pedestrians, collisions involving cyclists, fatalities, all that data? When can we get this data? Because I've yet to see it.
Through the chair, if I could, a couple points, Councillor Power. On the point of the intersection of Dixie and Howden Boulevard, we can certainly work with our colleagues at the Region of Peel, because that intersection is under their jurisdiction, to see what costing or direction to staff for that length or duration of policing. To your latter question around data, my submission to council would be, the venue for that would be through the Brampton Mobility Plan, which we will be bringing forward for council's consideration in Q1. And then obviously in this particular report, we've highlighted that we'll be updating our active transportation plan. To me, that is the forum for bringing some of the data that you're speaking to. And then we've heard council loud and clear in various discussions leading up to this report about ongoing communication with council through ward pairings, town halls and whatnot. We can certainly bring ward specific data if that is the wish of council.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Power. Councillor Santos, you have the floor.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, just in follow-up regarding that particular intersection and why police were actually there. It actually was through a delegation from members of the cycling community back, I can't remember when it was, in the summer or spring, who were concerned about the safety of that particular intersection. And then we reached out to Peel Regional Police and their road traffic safety. So Peel Police has different departments. Road traffic safety, intimate partner violence unit, their investigation unit. So there are police that are dedicated for road safety. And Inspector Claudia D'Amico in particular, I've met with numerous times where she has said to me, Councillor, if there's a dangerous intersection in anywhere in Brampton, or people aren't stopping at stop signs, or they're speeding on a local road, please let us know, because we will send an officer there to monitor the situation. And so that is what we did. We reached out to Claudia D'Amico from Peel Regional Police Road Safety Department, and they did their job to monitor that particular intersection. Upon investigation, she did send correspondence after indicating that it was highly unsafe. And because it was highly unsafe, she had encouraged the region of Peel to install separated bike lanes to prevent any accidents or injury to vulnerable users of the infrastructure. And that is what happened, and it was all public. That being said, I am more than happy, because we have the mobility plan that's coming up very soon. More than happy to receive the report and the presentation, which was for information purposes as per council's request for data and facts. So happy to receive the report, move to receive the report and the presentation. Thank you, Nelson.
Thank you, Councillor Santos. We have a motion by Councillor Santos to receive the presentation in the report. All in favor? Thank you, the motion carries. Now we'll move on to our next item, which is Government Relations Matter, held by Councillor Santos. Andreas Hoffman, CEO's office, is here with a presentation on Government Relations Matter. Councillor Santos.
Thanks so much. Through you, Madam Chair. Andres, I've gone through the presentation. I'm sure my colleagues have gone through the presentation as well. I don't have any necessary questions on the presentation. However, the reason why I held it is because Councillor Brar and I have been working with the region of Peel, particularly looking at the expansion of the Salvation Army Family Resource Center shelter and expanding that particular shelter, and working with the staff at the region with Peel Manor to see if there's any space that can accommodate the expansion of the Family Resource Center Salvation Army shelter for women and children. And based on those conversations, they're progressing very well. And we're going to be receiving an update from the region very soon in terms of any allocation of adjacent land on Peel Manor, which is right next to the Salvation Army Family Resource Center. So Councillor Brar and I have been working on this for a few months now. What we're wondering is if this council could please support a letter of advocacy to the provincial government, particularly to Minister of Social Services, Mr. Parsa, as well as Minister Williams from Women's Social and Economic Empowerment, advocating for support for the expansion of that shelter, capital support to expand that shelter as well as operating support to accommodate more shelter for women and children and families escaping intimate partner violence. So that's our motion, Councillor Brar and I've been talking about, as a follow-up from the Region of Peel meeting from last week.
Through the chair, Councillor, we're happy to take that back and work on an advocacy letter and reach out to both ministers.
Okay, so would you require a motion? Because we would like that letter to come from the mayor as well as from Councillor Brar and myself, who've been pushing at the region and working with the Salvation Army to expand that shelter. So just, I guess, moved by myself and Councillor Brar that an advocacy letter be sent to Minister Parsa and Minister Williams for capital and operating support to expand the Salvation Army Family Resource Shelter. Family and Salvation Army Family Resource Center. And sent to the Minister Parsa, Minister Williams, asking for capital and operating support to expand the shelter. Oh, there's a dog. Two. They're so cute. They're so well behaved. Perfect. And that would be moved from myself and Councillor Brar, please. Thank you. Thanks, Andres.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Santos. So we do have a motion on the floor, moved by Councillor Santos, that the letter of advocacy be sent to the Minister of, I think we just want to.
Minister Parsa, Minister Williams.
To support the Salvation Army Resource Center, asking for capital and operating support to expand the shelter. All in favor? Thank you, the motion carries. Madam Clerk, just want to clarify, going back, just for the transportation plan.
Through you, Chair, just to clarify for the minutes, there was a second portion of the report recommendation. We just want to clarify that the master plan was endorsed, or the intention was to endorse it with that motion to receive.
Perfect, thank you for the clarification.
Is that council's intent or
Just want
committee's
to
intent?
If that's in council's intent, we're okay?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. That motion carries also. Thank you so much. If council indulges to go on a lunch break?
Yes.
Okay, we will be going on a lunch break now and would require 30 minutes. And we would be coming back at 12:50. Madam Clerk? Thank you.
Check 1, 2.
Madam Clerk, we are not called.
Madam Clerk, do we have quorum?
Yes.
Through Chair, yes, we do.
Thank you. Welcome back, back to a committee of council. Now we're going on to our corporate services section. Seeing that no items were held, we will go on to our councillor question period. Do any members of council have any questions? Seeing none, we'll go on to the public question period. Madam Clerk, are there any questions that were submitted during the course of today's meeting?
Through Chair, I don't see any questions online either.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now I will hand it off to Public Works and Engineering section, which will be Councillor Vicente. Thank you.
Members of committee, our next item is 9.2.3, Engagement Campaign, Snow Survey Results for Winter Maintenance Contract, held by Councillor Tour. Councillor.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I had a discussion with staff about this as well earlier, but I just wanted to bring it out into the public as well, because possibly my colleagues would have some comments as well. So looking at the survey, it is a good survey, but it's not the greatest numbers to give us any confidence. So I don't know if we can pull it. Would it be possible to pull up the survey on the screen? But I'll just talk to it. The window clearing survey that was up, there were about 7,000 responses that were received on that survey, somewhere around roughly that number. Not an overwhelming percentage of residents for the service or against the service. The numbers are sitting around the 50% ballpark figure. I think it's like 53, 47 or something like that, where the numbers are. So it doesn't really give us a true picture of whether residents are truly supporting this as a service or truly against this service. So talking to the commissioner about this, I asked that if we can keep the community engagement piece active even throughout the winter, because that's maybe when people will pay more attention to a survey about snow clearance, while we just continue with our regular snow maintenance activities without adding on any additional services. I think it would give us more information, more data that would possibly help us make a decision perhaps for next winter season.
If staff could comment.
Through the chair to Councillor Toure, if that's the will of council, we can certainly request our corporate communications team to extend the survey through the winter season.
And then I guess we'll hear back the results sometime back in spring or whatever. What would be the best time for us to revisit this in order to be prepared for next year's winter season?
So through the chair to Councillor Toure, what we can do is provide a briefing at the end of the winter season with the results of the survey, and then we could look to potentially implement the program if it's desired by council for the 2026-2027 winter season.
Okay. That's all the comments I had regarding this, and I think maybe that's a discussion that we could have once again during budget this year to see what our neighboring municipalities are doing as well, because I know they're having a similar discussion at City of Mississauga, so it puts us in that spot where if Mississauga does it, we kind of have to see how we move forward. So maybe that's a more appropriate discussion at budget at that time. But thank you. Those are all the comments I had about this.
Thank you. And so, Councillor Toure, you're moving that we extend the survey through the winter months, correct?
Yes, please.
Okay. Speaking to the motion, Councillor Fortini.
Yeah, thank you. Just, can we put the survey back up through the chair? It says at the bottom here, it would cost 19.6 million. How did we average that? How did we do that data of the cost?
Sure. Through the chair to Councillor Fortini, it's based on the contract cost for the labor and equipment. which is approximately $9 million. It also includes a 30% administration fee, and as well as snow removal, which is the most significant cost over and above the actual windrow clearing program. The snow removal costs, you may recall, were determined during a comprehensive workshop that was conducted in January of 2024. And these cost estimates were based on the work that was done on that during that workshop and then refined for the survey.
What do you mean by snow removal? I don't get it.
So through the chair, the way the operation would work is once plowing event is complete, within a 4-hour period, the windrow machines would come with the articulating arm and would push the snow, creating the opening in the driveway. And then after depending on the severity of the snowfall, after a few operations, there would be snow removal operations required to physically remove the piles of snow that have been pushed onto the roadway from the removal operations.
Okay. I thought maybe just a plow truck would just go by again, not to remove it. We usually remove them on the courts because there's no room to the driveway. On a road, once you put the arm down, and it happens maybe 1 storm or 2 storms out of the year, it goes onto the lawn. That little piece that comes on the sidewalk, you just put the truck back in and away you go. So I don't know about what we're talking about removing it. Anyway, we'll wait through budget and see what they say. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fortini. So no other speakers. As moved by Councillor Tour, all in favor, any opposed? That carries. Next is item 9.3.2, a notice of motion moved by Councillor Brar. Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And after Councillor Tour and I had met with the representatives of the Plant-Based Treaty Group and learning about the impact of food industry on our environment, we were motivated to endorse the Plant-Based Treaty as individual councillors and encourage the City of Brampton to endorse the treaty as well, so that we can better serve the needs of our diverse communities and work towards a better climate future as well. We have to acknowledge the importance of diverse food options to meet the dietary needs of Brampton residents, looking at not only the personal preferences for plant-based foods and locally sourced foods, but also food sensitivities as well. Considering plant-sourced foods, but also considering plant-based, locally sourced and sustainable food procurement options for city events, city facilities should be a key part of our city's climate action plan. Spreading awareness of plant-based food options within the City of Brampton, encouraging our residents to explore plant-based food and drink options is also an important aspect of this commitment, as we can use these opportunities to support local businesses and vendors as well. And we do have a motion on the screen. I'm not going to be reading the whereases, but I do believe that the therefore be it resolved. I'm just going to be reading that out because it is important. With the concurrence of the mayor that the adoption of this resolution, the City of Brampton formally endorses a plant-based treaty and makes a plant-based approach as a part of the city's climate plan. Number 2, use Brampton civic events, including meetings, events hosted by City Council to promote and showcase appropriately environmentally friendly plant-based food and drink options alongside displayed information about the climate and health benefits and relative costs of different protein food sources and informing people about how to achieve a balanced plant-based diet. Number 3, when events occur in Brampton open spaces where catering is provided, ensure that environmentally friendly plant-based options are included and available. Number 4, evaluate the potential for increasing plant-based food options and introducing plant-based defaults in City of Brampton facilities and during regional events with the aim of increasing healthy eating options for staff and visitors while contributing to the reduction of negative impacts to the climate. Number 5, promote a plant-based awareness week and use municipal communication channels to promote sustainable and affordable food and drink practices throughout the City of Brampton. And number 3, create an action plan and timescale for implementing changes to City of Brampton activities following the endorsement of the treaty and report back on a progress in 6 months. And further, that a copy of this motion be circulated to the regional appeal. And I just do want to acknowledge that we do have our plant-based group here today in the audience. And I do want to thank you for everything you have done. You know, it does take a lot to make sure you talk about the things that matter to you. And when we heard about the responses and everything that you've told us, how it affects the climate and how it affects food sensitivities for a lot of young people around the world, it was really important for us to take this in consideration and formally endorse that. So again, thank you so much, and we'll have the motion as read.
Thank you very much, Councillor Burr. I see no speakers to the motion. So members of the committee, you have the motion before you as read. All in favor, any opposed? That carries. Next, councillor question period. Yes? Any questions from members of committee? No? Public question period. Madam Clerk, do we have questions from members of the public for this section of the agenda?
Through your chair, we have no questions at this time online.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So with that, we'll move to the community services section chaired by Councillor Santos.
Okay, we're now in the community services section. 10.2.1 was put into consent, which brings us to notice of motion Jay's Care Foundation, moved by Mayor Patrick Brown. This is just a waiving of fees for the 3 dates of their event, the Jay's Care Foundation events for 2025 and 2026. All those in favor of Mayor Brown's motion, opposed, that carries. Next one is 10.3.2, notice of motion moved by Regional Councillor Brar. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm not sure if everyone knows, but November is Adoption Awareness Month. And this year, I want to not only highlight the importance of adoption as an option for those who are looking to grow their families, but to highlight the obstacles that adoption agencies, adoptive parents, and birth parents face in their adoption journey. Adoption is an opportunity for both adoptive parents, adoptees, and birth parents for a better life and a chance to make a difference in the lives of another. However, there has been an increased need for support for adoptees, adoptive parents, and birth mothers, parents alike. This Adoption Awareness Month, I'm advocating for more social supports, assistance from the provincial and federal government to mitigate financial barriers for those who wish to adopt and increase support services for adoptees and adoptive families. We also have to recognize the need for increased support for birth mothers, many whom are unaware of what options they have, what resources they have access to, and how they can get help. So this really started last year when JFJ delegated to council, and they spoke about the stories of adoptive parents and birth mothers who came to them. And there's an interesting story where they were talking about a birth mother who had no access to prenatal care. And the first time she stepped into a medical facility was the day when she was giving birth. And every woman should have the right to have prenatal care, regardless of the financial barriers that they face. And this is the first time the adoption agencies get in touch with the birth mothers. And what we want to advocate for is making sure that there's a lot of international students who are coming, who are giving their children up for adoption choice, whether it's financial barriers or whatsoever. However, in the educational institutions, they're not covered for prenatal care. All women should have prenatal care. These are our future generations to come. And I can look around the room and say, you know, if you have a child, you have a niece or nephew, you would want prenatal care to prevent any preventable disease or disorder. So what we're advocating to the federal and provincial government is to make sure that these support services are there for our birth mothers. And then when you look on the other side for adoptee parents, there's a financial barrier that they face. So if you were to receive IVF, you would get financial assistance, but if you were to adopt, there's no financial assistance at all. So the biggest thing is, how do we make adoption easy for our parents? And it really is about navigating through the system and making sure that we advocate for both sides so this can be seamless. And there is a motion on the floor. I'm not going to be reading the whereases. I'm sorry, I will be reading the whereases because it is important to talk about and acknowledge what is happening here at the Region Appeal. So whereas 40% of adoptions completed at JFJ Hope Center were South Asian are South Asian birth mothers, whereas all the South Asian birth mothers all were international students. Whereas in the case of 55% of birth mothers completed had no OHIP coverage. Whereas of the birth mothers with no OHIP, none of them received prenatal care. Whereas university health insurance programs do not cover pregnancies, prenatal care, or postnatal care. Whereas there is a lack of understanding around Canada's privacy laws, Canada's international students do not understand that adoption agency cannot disclose their information, specifically about pregnancy, to the Canadian Ministry of Refugees and Citizenship. Whereas there is a culture of shame within many racialized communities, many of the birth mothers do not seek out aid or care due to this. Whereas the international students who are birth mothers may be living in shared accommodations and may have to find alternate accommodations or may experience homelessness due to keeping the pregnancy a secret. Whereas there are currently no pregnancy care centers in Brampton, which would include services that include safe sexual relationships, prenatal care, information about pregnancy options, and postnatal care. Whereas 60% of birth mothers that JFJ Hope Center has worked with have resided in Brampton. Whereas the major issue facing potential adoptive parents is a lack of financial support. Whereas there is no financial assistance from the provincial or federal government. Whereas the average cost to adopt is between $25,000 to $30,000. The cost has increased due to inflation. Whereas some workplace insurance programs do cover IVF and egg freezing, but adoption is not considered when it comes to family planning. Whereas there are post-adoption support programs that are developed by private adoption agencies, but there are no support programs that exist throughout Ontario. Therefore, it be resolved, Mayor Brown, on behalf of Council, send a letter of advocacy to the Honourable Jenna Sads, Minister of Families, Children and Social Development, and to the Honourable Micah Peraza, the Minister of Children, Community and Social Services, to advocate for more robust pregnancy support system in the City of Brampton. Number 2, the letter of advocacy should also call for the provincial and federal governments to consider for financial assistance for adoptive parents to encourage parents to look into adoption process. Number 3, the letter of advocacy should also call for the government funding for pregnancy care centers that include services including information on healthy relationships, pregnancy care options, prenatal care, and postnatal care. Number 4, the letter of advocacy should also include a call for funding for post-adoption support programs that included training of mental health professionals in adoption competency in the adoption process. Number 5, the provincial government to advocate to post-secondary institutions included prenatal care, pregnancy, delivery, and postnatal care as a part of their university college healthcare insurance plans. Number 6, the city to work with the government and post-secondary institutions to develop orientation or programming for international students that focuses on healthy relationships, sex education, pregnancy options, including adoption in the matter that is culturally informed and sensitive. Number 7, the City of Brampton to use their communication channels to increase awareness about adoption in an effort to break down the stigma and to normalize adoption. Number 8, the letter of advocacy to be forwarded as a correspondence to the Regional Appeal. Number 9, the letter of advocacy to be sent to all Brampton members of Parliament and all Brampton members of provincial Parliament to request their support in this matter. And I just really want to say thank you to Councillor Santos. I know she has done a lot of work on the international student file, along with Mayor Brown and other members of council. And I think this is one piece we can add to the puzzle that we are missing, especially for our international students. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Councillor Brar. There are no questions on the board. All those in favor of Councillor Brar's motion? Anyone opposed? That carries. Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is another discussion item from Councillor Medeiros regarding potential agreement with province regarding respond to 311 calls.
Thank you very much through you, Madam Chair. And thank you to staff just up front for all the work you've been doing on this file. I know it's somewhat challenging and, you know, and again, thank you to Councillor Keenan for his leadership in this area as well. So based on our several town halls that staff have participated, I do know that there was an announcement of some sort in response to residents who showed some frustration regarding a specific instance that happened regarding the safety without digging, without locates, etc. I know we belabored the point, but I thought I would just bring it here so staff can go on record and give us where are we, is this going to be some official process, so that this way there's clarity in the community, especially I know there's a lot of residents who are weighing in on this issue, so that'd be great if staff can provide that clarity and official record.
Sure. Through the chair to Councilor Medeiros, our 311 staff are working with legal actually to facilitate a memorandum of understanding or a service level agreement with Ontario One Call and Ministry of Labour so that we can not only warm transfer the call over, but then there's that defined level of service that residents can expect to make sure they get to the place they need to get to.
And thank you very much for that, and through you, Madam Chair. I guess the one issue, and I know we're addressing it, is I think there's still confusion about who makes the call, like how is this going to be incorporated in our process, where from the perspective of a household is doing digging. Because in this instance, it was a resident that took it upon themselves to make the call. Is there going to be something that's going to be built into a process where we will check for that, or is this, just to provide some clarity on this?
Through the chair, through to you, Councillor Medeiros, great question. Council may recall when staff brought forth the recent report on this, when it comes to obtaining a building permit, both on the building permit itself and on the city website, it has a checklist for those contractors or residents who are obtaining the building permit to actually make that call to Ontario One Call to do their locates. When it comes to unqualified contractors, which I suspect is the high majority of calls that are coming into 311, Council will recall that we are working on an SOP to work in tangent with enforcement and 311 to impose fines on those unqualified contractors. And that goes back to the report we brought forth on the unqualified contractors. Yeah. The chief building official, as council might recall, does not have the delegated authority to revoke a license because the delegated authority is within the structure itself. Anything outside of the structure generally falls under external agencies. So hopefully that kind of
No, and thank you through Madam Chair, just lastly, and thank you for the update and the explanation, and it's great because we keep hearing, and I know staff our residents keep pointing towards us on provincial sort of responsibilities and the fact that we're going beyond and trying to establish some clarity there. I think it's good for the whole neighborhood. So thank you, and you will, I assume, bring to council or raise that attention so we can share, so we know what the process would be going forward.
Sure, through the chair. Yeah, once we have that process kind of defined and signed off, we can update council through a briefing note or whatever.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Councillor Medeiros. Next item is councillor question period. Any members of committee have any questions? Next item is public question period. Madam Clerk, any questions online?
Through you, Chair, no questions online.
Okay. Next section is legislative services. I believe 11.2.1 was put into consent, which brings, correct? Yes, I think so, yeah. Which brings us to Mayor Brown's notice of motion, 11.3.1, regarding protests at places of worship. Mayor Brown, over to you.
I'm happy to
share on screen.
I'm happy to speak to that, and I'll put the bylaw on the screen. You know, Brampton works best, Canada works best when and we're all together. And the reality is, every street you've got a diversity of faiths and neighbors like neighbors, coworkers like coworkers. Sometimes there's incidents that cause division that is unnecessary. And I believe, and I've said it in the media, that 99.9% of the Sikh and Hindu communities are loving and believe in harmony and just want their kids to grow up in a safe city. I've really been heartened by the meetings that I've had with the Ontario Gurdwara Committee, the Hindu Sabha Executive, who are all saying the same things. They say those who have committed violence in the name of their faith do not speak for their faith. Unfortunately, everywhere you go, you're going to find in any crowd, the word I use in the media, I'm not sure if it's proper decorum for the council chambers, but idiots. You're going to get an idiot in any crowd. And we need to make sure that those individuals and agitators don't ruin the beautiful harmony we have in Canada. The reason that Canada is such a sought-after destination in the world is we protect rights here. And the right to protest is a charter right. The right to freedom of religion is a charter right. And fortunately, in the last week, we've seen individuals that tried to create division, that tried to agitate, they actually got charged. And that's the way it should be. But I'm also mindful that sometimes there can be an environment that makes it easier for friction to happen, easier for violence to happen. And a lot of this is outside of our municipal jurisdiction. But one thing we can do to create an environment that prevents that type of violence and friction is to say there is a right and a wrong place of where to protest. My firm belief is that regardless if you go to a mandir, a gurdwara, a mosque, a synagogue, or a church, everyone should be able to go to pray free of violence, intimidation, and harassment. That's the starting point. So I have a bylaw based on the Vaughan bylaw that would prohibit protest at a place of worship, restrict the protest at a place of worship. I understand that they're looking at this in Ottawa. Just today, Mississauga Council passed this as well. And so I think what we're saying is that in this country, we protect the right to protest as long as it does not infringe another right. And freedom of religion is also a constitutionally protected right. So if there's an outside group booking a place of worship for some other reason, that's a separate conversation. But the basic premise is you get to go to pray free of violence, intimidation, and harassment in this country and in this city, and that's what the motion I put forward speaks to. It would have to be ratified at council next week, so everyone has time to review the bylaw as drafted by our city legal department. But I know Councillor Power asked if he could second it, and I'd say any member of council that wants to second it, feel free. The more, I think there's a sense of unity around this basic premise that in the city of Brampton, we lean into religious freedom. Just like we fought Bill 21 and the first city to do so, and others joined across the country, in this city, we protect religious freedom. I think that's a beautiful thing about the city of Brampton. So thank you for this consideration, and hope that we can pass this motion today and ratify it next week.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brown. I have a list, Councillor Keenan, followed by Councillor Power, and then Councillor
So
Fortin.
I think I'm in Councillor.
Oh, you're in Councillor, sorry. Councillor Power, followed by Councillor Fortin. Councillor Power.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And, echoing the sentiments of the mayor, you've been steadfast standing up for religious freedoms. And I think all of us on council, we go to a number of different events throughout the week and throughout the weekends. And, and I've had meetings with many religious leaders, not only from the Sikh or Hindu communities, but also from other communities that are worried. And, and I applaud you for bringing this forward. And I think, as you said, Brampton is that home where we have that diverse culture and we live in harmony together. And I applaud you for bringing this forward. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Councillor Fortini, followed by Councillor Majeros. Councillor Fortini.
Thank you, and thank you to the mayor, and I'd like also to second the motion, right? And thank you for all the hard work you did on this. Thank you.
Councillor Majeros.
Thank you. Just very quickly, thank you so much, Mayor Brown. And I think, this bylaw, once we establish it, it would be great that it gets sent out to all the places of worship for their awareness, and so they can feel also feel that they're being supported by the city. thank you again for this.
Thanks, Councilor Medeiros. It's a great suggestion. I'm happy to put my name on as a seconder as well, Mayor Brown. Anything else? Any further comments? All of council? All of council to second the motion? Yeah.
Did we have any issues around schools? Because I know the worship, there was also, I heard something about in front of a school, maybe we could add that on it too?
I would, Councilor Fortini, thank you for the suggestion. The Vaughan bylaw is hospitals, schools, and places of worship. What I'd say is I'd like to keep this to places of worship. Schools and hospitals are provincial jurisdiction. There was some restriction on the right to protest at hospitals during the pandemic. But I would say for these bylaws could be challenged, and I believe if it's restricted to protecting religious freedom, it would withstand a court challenge that restricts the ability to protest. If you add in additional venues, it may not withstand that challenge.
Okay. Thank you very much. Motion moved by Mayor Brown, seconded by all members of council. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries. Well done. The next item of business is a notice of motion from Regional Councilor Medeiros regarding parking and property standard violations. Councilor Medeiros.
Thank you very much. Very quickly through you, Madam Chair. I know we've had a recent workshop where we discussed that. I think part of this issue as well, and we feel the frustration of residents. I do know this was raised at Town Hall as well, that Councillor Kane and myself had, where I think people want to see bigger tickets. They want to see more punitive measures. I know there's a rationale for why we have what we have, so I don't want to get in a big discussion now. I just want to look towards staff. If this is okay for you to come back with a report, so this way it helps us at least provide that knowledge to council. Why do we have the system in which we have? And this way we can also share it with our residents. Just maybe staff might want to comment if they're okay with that.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, thank you, Councillor, and thank you for the opportunity to bring that back. We look forward to sharing that information.
Okay, thank you very much.
If I could just
go
speak
ahead.
to that as well. I welcome this request from Councillor Medeiros. We do have a problem in certain parts of the city with properties that are in disarray, and it's almost too easy to leave a property in disarray. So looking at, 99% of landlords are great landlords. We're really focusing a lot of time and energy on the same bad apples, and so to have tools to be more punitive towards those bad apples, I think is helpful. And also, I should note that in this year's budget, which we'll be dealing with in relatively short time, one of the issues we're talking about is the Committee of Adjustment Fees, and how it's relatively inexpensive to go through this process, given the cost on the city. And so that's something we're looking at trying to reconcile. And so whether it is the fines or the cost to pave over your entire front lawn, those are things that I think we need to get more aggressive on, and I think that's the tone of this, and I would love to support that.
Great. Motion moved by Councilor Medeiros. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries. Next is a notice of motion from Councilor Medeiros reporting regarding RRL units to the CRA. Councilor Medeiros.
Thank you very much, again, through you, Madam Chair. Councillor Kane and myself, I know we've been in discussion, and we've had residents keep coming back with the same issue of, as just Mayor Brown suggested, some bad actors who seem to have an impact in providing, additional costs onto the city. So this was a tactic I remember back in 2016, 2017. I'm not sure how widely reported or was used, but at the time I was chair of corporate services, and I know we received official communication from the CRA saying that they didn't have enough capacity to investigate all the sort of illegal basement apartments or areas, and we basically, as part of the techniques I guess being used, you would look at just ads that were put out in newspapers, and then we simply just sent copies to CRA. Again, I think I know there's concerns. I do see some challenges with it, and I know we wouldn't get that money directly back. But I just think that it'd be something that if staff can look at to see what are some of the possibilities. And even though I asked staff to prepare it, I don't know if this should be referred maybe to the RRL committee. And I'm open to either way, either suggestion, how we proceed. I don't know if the clerk would maybe provide direction on what's the best appropriate direction.
Through you, Chair Santos, I would recommend referring it back to staff as a starting point. I don't believe the working group the task force is meeting regularly right now.
Okay.
But
So I'm
sooner look would be for
I'm happy to
staff.
refer this to staff and have a report back on what are the pros and cons of if we can do that logistically.
Great, thank you. Motion from Councillor Medeiros, all in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries. The next item is councillor question period. Do any members of committee have any questions regarding this section of the agenda? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, do we have any public questions online or here in the gallery?
Through you, Chair, we have no questions online, and I see none in the gallery.
Thank you very much. Next is economic development. I'm going to hand it over to, no. 1141. I don't, from Peel Police? The motion. Okay. Okay, so correspondence moved by Mayor Brown. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries. Next item is, we've done council question period, public question period. Next item is economic development. And Councillor Tour wants me to chair because you have a motion on the floor. Councillor Tour, over to you.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I think the motion was posted on the agenda, so I'll move it as displayed here on the screen. I think it's very important to have this roundtable discussion regarding immigration changes and the impact it has on local businesses, especially with the labor market. We have our friends here from Brampton Board of Trade. J. Paul Massey Singh is in the audience as well. This motion is basically instructing our Economic Development Office to work together with the Brampton Board of Trade to host an industry roundtable discussion with local businesses and government officials, which aims to do the following things that are listed on the screen. I will move that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Tour. All those in favor of the motion, anyone opposed? That carries. That brings us to our referred matters list. Do any members of committee have any questions regarding the referred matters list? Seeing none. Next item is public question period. Do any members of the public have any questions related to any item on the agenda today? Seeing none. Closed session. We are now going to move into closed session for, I believe, 2 items. Madam Clerk, can you summarize those 2 items for us?
Through you, Chair, 15.1 is a staff report, Brampton Transit Update, and it is pursuant to Section 239(2)K of the Municipal Act, being related to a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality. And 15.2 is a discussion item regarding the procedural bylaw, and that is pursuant to open meeting exception under Section 239(2)F of the Municipal Act regarding solicitor-client privilege to receive legal advice.
Great, thank you. And in the spirit of transparency, we will be reporting all direction given in open session. Motion to move into closed from Councillor Tour. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries. Madam Clerk, how much time would you need to meet us in close? 10 minutes. So at 1:45.
Sound check, Councillor Vicente.
Thank you, Councillor Vicente. You're coming through clear.
Okay, yeah. Okay. In the continuing interest of transparency and open government, I'll ask the clerk to report in public session any outcomes from today's closed session business. Madam Clerk, over to you.
Through you, Chair Santos. In closed session, council considered item 15.1 and provided direction to staff. Council also considered 15.2. No direction was given.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Our last item is adjournment. Our next scheduled meeting for Committee of Councils is November 27th at 9:30 a.m. Motion moved by Councillor Tour to adjourn today's meeting. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries. Well done, everyone. And thank you so much to our city staff for supporting such a successful meeting today. Have a great afternoon.